What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 9s Chapter 181 The Country of Wano, swords swinging across the world, hundreds of thousands of lives lost. 10,000 meters above the country of Wano, Uda, who was naked and was used as a war bargaining chip by Tyr, had just been covered in clothes by Nami and Robin. The seriously injured Chisha was also brought up. That pervert. Wait a minute, Robin, someone else is here. Looking at Chisha who was sent up by Tyr in the mist, Nami had no idea what was happening in Wano country below. That's his personal assistant, Shanks. Dead. Uda, with his hands folded across his chest, was still in the mood of the red-haired being killed by Tyr. Robin, who was about to send Uda back to his room, stopped. Looking at Chisha who was sent up, the sword energy protecting her body dispersed from her body. Falling onto the lawn. How did she get hurt like this? Robin quickly came to Chisha. Check the injury immediately and provide wound treatment. Who knows, but that guy really cares about this woman. Both Robin and Nami heard what Tyr, who often visited Sky Island, said when he was drunk. Anyone who hurts the people he cares about will be destroyed. She has no life breath, but her body functions are still functioning, which means she is not dead. The two looked at each other in horror. His body trembled at the same time and he said, Wano country is in danger, fingers crossed. There's no telling what that guy is going to do. Wano country to Port. Tyr, who had just finished swinging his sword at the Wano warriors, knelt on his knees, and a strong wind blew his bangs. From the moment he found out that Sissa was dying, Tyr's attention was focused on her. The moment he completely felt her life disappear, he was like a beast that had lost its iron chains. You said you were going to raze Wano country to the ground? Seeing Tyr kneeling down, a warrior loyal to Odin's personality stood up with disdain. Are you kidding? The country of Wano has a history of nearly 1,000 years. No matter how many of us you kill, there will still be descendants who will come forward to fulfill Lord Odin's long-cherished wish. Yeah. Tyr said coldly to Kaido, I don't want this country to exist in the world anyway. Hey, Your Majesty the Sword God. Fujitora smiled as he watched Tyr condense the terrifying energy around first-generation Onitetsu, and frowned as he realized something was wrong. Advertisement, kill all enemies and hidden dangers. When Fujitora saw Tail stand up and swing his sword towards the Flower City, the gravity fruit instantly covered the entire country. What's wrong? My body is floating. Tail slashed the air in front of him with his sword, and all the mountains in Wano country were instantly cut apart by a sword light. Huge cracks were torn out into space, and countless buildings in the Flower City were cut in half and soared into the sky. Regardless of men, women, old or young, all creatures illuminated by the sword were split into two. The extremely large-scale destructive power spread across the entire country in an instant, bringing with it Tyr's intervent for such a fate. The whole country of Wano was in turmoil, and the people were in dire straits. The samurai in Tyr, who had not been affected by this incident recently, saw this scene. The blade in his hand was instantly released, and his legs were weak and he knelt on the ground. One sword wiped out half of the Flower City. The volcano that has been dormant for thousands of years has begun to erupt. Who told you to talk too much? Didn't you understand how crazy he was when he hit him for the first time? Our citizens. The warriors seemed to have seen some magnificent and terrifying picture, which constantly stimulated their brains. They felt an unprecedented sense of despair from a biological level. That terrifying sword energy was only about 1 meter away from the high-rise building where CP0 was located. All CP0 members were in a daze and stood there to witness Taylor's move. That guy is serious. He really dares to kill on such a large scale. We were almost involved. What was that sword light that was faster than the speed of sound? Half of the Flower City was razed to the ground. The massacre that was reported in Marine more than 3 years ago is true. As a living being, no one can remain calm under Tyr's actions. Although there were many incidents of nations being massacred by pirates on the sea, almost none of them could compare with Tyr. In the Flower City, Chopper was surprised when he suddenly flew into the air. He was healing the wounds of countless soldiers, and was shocked when he saw the countless buildings disappearing in front of him. Wait, there are still injured people. This move is the 8th form of Tyr's sword god slash, called Jian Dang Tnd. It was the full blow he gave after learning that Chisha's life had disappeared, which contained a power that could make anyone tremble. Then, he crushed his neck with a palm, and blood burst out like juice. Now, if Tyr wants to destroy a country, he doesn't need to kill them one by one. He only needs to wave a few swords to completely destroy a country. I don't care anymore. Advertisement. Although they rescued the soldiers within the attack range of Flower Capital and Tyr in time, the casualties in Flower Capital instantly reached an astonishing hundreds of thousands. No one knows what happened. Don't come here. You monster. The warrior retreated subconsciously, with tears streaming down his face and full of regret. Her breath disappeared, and a similar fate happened to me again. Feeling Tyr's extremely cold-blooded and creepy aura, Tyr's eyes were bloodshot and he looked at his trembling palms. Listening to Taylor's cold voice, Fujitora also fell silent. Weird. Monster. Are you still human? Are you still human? Huh. Your Majesty the Sword God. Fujitora still maintained a tone of awe at Tyr's move. What are you doing? Civilians are innocent. Fujitora looked at the half-disappeared Flower City with cold sweat on his head. You always have to lose to regret. Can't you just shut up? Yes, yes. As he said that, he threw away the warrior, and the elements turned into gas as fast as the wind and instantly came behind the other warrior. There would be no such thing as inheritance of will, and I won't feel anything now. Tal picked up his sword and came to the warrior who just didn't bother to speak. The samurai trembled and turned around, feeling the aura on Tyr's body that was like the arrival of Shinigami. The commander-in-chief is Tyr, and he has to obey Tyr's will. The order is absolute, no matter what happens, defeating the 4 emperors is the primary goal. He snapped at the surviving samurai, surrender, surrender. Kill them all. Taylor stretched out his hand, pinched his neck, and lifted him up. This massacre on such a scale has affected the normal operations of Wano country. As long as they are from Wano country, no one is innocent. I can only fight against it, to erase all hidden dangers. Foz Fu, who was fighting against Huashaoshan, immediately surrendered from his knees on the ground with his hands on his head and his hands on his head when he saw the overwhelming strength of Tyr's destruction. Don't look back. Move the battlefield quickly. Seeing Foz Fu's surrender, Huashaoshan immediately shouted to the soldiers who were stunned and moved to the Tudun mine. You can have hundreds of years of accumulation, thousands of years of accumulation, or 10,000 years of accumulation, just kill them all. Waiting for the move to end, the moment all the buildings fell from the air to the ground, extremely miserable screams came from the entire Wano country. Even a person as powerful as Fujitora cannot calmly deal with the sudden disappearance of hundreds of thousands of creatures. After the war, Tyr was left in charge alone. Chapter 182 The decisive battle on the top of Ghost Island begins in Wano country. The great revenge had just been avenged, and Tyr, who thought Chisha had been sacrificed, suffered a strong blow to his inner world. The next moment, he clenched his fists and looked firmly at Onigashima. Have you considered the consequences of this? I take full responsibility? Alas. Fujitora sighed and came behind Tyr. The move just now was not domineering, couldn't it be? He guessed that Tyr consumed immeasurable domineering energy during the fierce battle in Zime Township. There are also armed colors and infinite sword energy, which is enough. The conquerors were exhausted fighting Rayleigh and Shanks. If you continue to use Teal, you may experience physical discomfort or seriously extend your lifespan. Although, he just gained a lifespan of hundreds of thousands of years. If you are killed by the enemy, you will not live forever. Tyr, who was about to get up and fly to Onigashima, was stopped by a soft voice. Take me with you. It will help you, Hancock said with his hands clasped on his chest, looking concerned about Tyr's emotional state. Fujitora used gravity to stand on a flying stone, following Ty's footsteps. Are you leaving? Fujitora, who was determined to follow Tyr and fight against the 4 emperors, no longer hesitated at this moment. Don't hold back. Yes. Hancock seemed calm on the outside, but in fact he was just as shocked as everyone else on the inside. Even if he is a cold-blooded devil, Hancock doesn't care. Now she is only worried about Tyr's safety. Her strength surpasses that of Lieutenant General Marine, and is infinitely close to the level of Tamagi and Momosagi. It can definitely help. The sunset is coming. On the top of the Ghost Island, a pirate who was eager to report the news ran to Kaido and Big Mom with cold sweat on his head. Lord Kaido. Our army was instantly defeated. What did you say? Kai, who was drinking with Linlin with a wine bottle, was stunned. Our coalition forces were all killed in an instant. Where are my children? Hearing such news, Linlin couldn't sit still. Although her children were only regarded by her as flags leading to the top. But they are all her own flesh and blood. Everyone in the Baiwu war zone has been killed, and only one person is left fighting desperately. Huh? What did you say? Big Mom stood up, and his steel-like round balloon body inadvertently revealed the angry conqueror's pressure. Advertisement, dead. Kaido couldn't sit still. Of course, Lord Katakuri and Lord Jin are still fighting in the rabbit mine. Facing the report from his subordinates, Kaido looked extremely serious. Where are Quinn and Jack? Kaido asked again. Master Quinn was petrified by the pirate empress. Master Jack fell into the water and his life or death is unknown. Such bad news and battle situation were like thunder hitting Kaido and Linlin's heads. The only one who can be so cold-blooded is that little brat with paralysis. While they were talking, the door to the top of Ghost Island slowly opened again. Napoleon. This made Big Mom subconsciously hold the Emperor's sword. Kaido frowned, holding the mace and looking at the familiar woman walking out of the door. Runti. He was a little confused when he saw Runti, one of the 6 flying cells. Why are you here, Lord Kaido? Runti was like a puppet, approaching Kaido with Tyr's knife. What's wrong with you, Runty? Shouldn't you be fighting on the front line? The second Runty approached Kaido, she immediately swung Tyr's blade and slashed at him. Kaido, who was defenseless against his own people, was cut into flesh and blood by the screaming blade for an instant. He knocked Runty unconscious with a stick and covered the itching wound. What's going on, Kaido? How come there are weapons that can hurt you? Boom. Countless sword blades hanging in the clouds, accompanied by 5 huge demon corpses, approached Linlin and Kaido. Aren't they guarding the gate of Onigashima? The black knife that cut Kaido suddenly flew towards the gate of the top of Onigashima. Tyr's body was stained with the inside of Onigashima, and the blood of pirates appeared in front of them. Kid. Kaido didn't show the same interest-filled expression as when he first met Teal at the sea. Just because you're here, does that mean my children have really been killed by you? Entering the top of the Ghost Island, Tyr looked sad and wanted to cry but couldn't. No matter who dies, it is a normal phenomenon in this war. He never thought that Chisha would rush to the front line so stupidly. Who knows? Taylor didn't want to say anything at this time, inserting first-generation Ghost and Black Knife into the ground in front of him. The two extremely powerful forces collided, and the resulting impact roared past the top of the Ghost Island, kicking up huge clouds of dust and debris. Boom. Advertisement because of their lack of domineering power, the sword blades hitting them couldn't even break through their physical defenses. Tyr, who directly entered the fighting state, clenched his fists and stopped the attack of the airblade. Boom. Kaido picked up the mace with both hands, bent over and swung the mace, preparing to collide with Tyr. Kaido kicked Runty away in front of him, not wanting her to be affected by the upcoming battle. He no longer wanted to say any more nonsense. Linlin felt that Fujitora's power should not be underestimated, and even Linlin, who was infinitely close to him, did not dare to be careless. A fierce battle with Kaido broke out instantly. Countless sword blades were bombarded at Kaido and Linlin in an instant, but the effect was not as obvious as it was against other people. Damn boy. Do you know how much energy I spend giving birth to so many children? Linlin was furious. The sword energy flow instantly covered both blades. During the collision, Kaido looked at Tyr's weapon and noticed something unusual. Where's your haki? I defeated everyone who challenged me to get to this top position, kid. He also stepped on a huge stone and appeared in front of the two of them. Summoning Zeus to fly into the air and stepping on it, holding Prometheus like a cloud of flame in his left hand, holding the Emperor's sword in his right hand and bursting out with terrifying Conqueror's haki. All turned into breath and dispersed in the air. The muscles all over Tyr's body seemed to be exploding, constantly mobilizing the strength in his body to compete with Kaido. Drink. The gravel under Teal's feet flew up, and he screamed with the knife in both hands, and rushed towards Kaido at an extremely fast speed. He controlled countless sword blades in the sky and pulled them down violently. How can you defeat me with a body that is only astonishingly murderous? Then he raised his hands above his head. Is it useless? The bodies of these guys are indeed harder than steel. Condensation. Even if only your body is left, I will wipe you out from this sea. This guy really found a strong helper. The moment their weapons collided, ripples of lightning ripped apart the air and sky. Let me meet the big mom who is called a natural monster. Fujitora drew his sword and exuded hostility towards Linlin. The sword blades in the sky turned into sword energy and returned to Tyr's palms. He held the two swords on the ground and made a crossed posture. The corpses of the 5 Majin clan were thrown from the sky by Fujitora. The ground beneath his feet cracked and sank due to the excessive force exerted by Tyr's legs. It's so itchy, Kaido said, waving the mace to warm up. It seems that you didn't learn a lesson from the previous one. Chapter 183 Wano Country, Release the Power of the Fruit. The impact that shook the top of Ghost Island broke out in an instant. Even if Tyr uses all his strength now, he still can't compete with Kaido in the best condition for a long time. I have to say that a person can reach your level in just 5 years after he was born. He is really a terrifying genius. Kaido discovered that Tail's strength had reached its limit, and his thick arms suddenly flicked away his swords. Then a blow hit him hard in the brain. Tail, who was shaken away, immediately lowered his body to avoid Kaido's blow. Able to anticipate actions, this guy doesn't have the intelligence and color of Red Hair and Rayleigh. At this moment, his right hand screamed and penetrated into the ground at an extremely fast speed, condensing the terrifying sword energy and striking Kaido's ribs on the left side with all his strength. Chi-Si Rapids. The thundering roar emanating from Tyr's throat exuded a momentum that made the whole body tremble. His pupils were pale and there was no emotion at all. He could only fight to clear the sea and move towards the goal of a peaceful era. His mind was filled with memories of Chisha handling documents like a little daughter-in-law and acting coquettishly. Thousands of sword energy turned into small blades and rushed out of Tyr's palm, directly hitting Kaido's body covered with ghost scales. The move hit him hard, but was unable to break through his body's defense. Kaido swung his stick in the air, with a look of shock on his face, and squinted at the moves that Tail had gathered in an instant to hit his body. This kid. His fighting spirit has become so strong. Boom! The huge sea of sword energy rushed his huge body into the air. Tyr suddenly grabbed his black sword again, held the sword in both hands, aimed at Kaido, and jumped into the air. The top-notch weapon color flowed out of Tyr's arms, and the two swords seemed to turn into giant dragons, and they instantly swung towards Kaido's chest. Facing such a move, Kaido raised the corners of his mouth slightly. Not enough. Without the conquerors wrapped around the knife, you have no chance of winning against me. The mace was placed in front of him to resist Tyr's blade for a moment. God's damnation. A sword light soaring into the sky faded out along with the two words from Tyr's mouth, instantly burying Kaido in it. What? Kaido looked shocked, and his body was swallowed up by the huge sword energy. Even if he doesn't have domineering power, Tyr still has nearly unlimited sword energy for him to fight. It's not like there's no chance of winning. The sword light disappeared. Kaido put his hands in front of him in a defensive posture, and the feeling of his back being torn by slashes invaded his whole body. The black knife broke through his physical defense, and Tyr, who appeared behind him, blasted the air with his feet and glared down at Onigashima. Hateful. Advertisement. Kaido was blasted into the ground by Tyr's knife, like a meteorite falling right above the Ghost Island, raising a lot of smoke and dust. It's not that I don't have a chance. On the ground, Tyr stepped on Kaido's head, and the blade that cut open the flesh and blood was furiously exerting force on his body. When he wanted to cut him in two, a violent and domineering lightning struck Tyr from the clouds, causing his whole body to be temporarily paralyzed. Smelly brat. Boom. Kaido's armguard shook, knocking tail away from his body. Are you looking down on me? Thunder and lightning surrounded Kaido's body, split the earth in his path. It's all due to his domineering attitude, and he doesn't dare to look down on Tyr anymore. Especially the knife in his hand, it was obviously unable to break through his physical defense before. Now he can be easily cut. Tyr, who was sliding on the earth, inserted his two swords into the earth, slowing down the impact and stopping. Looking at the white smoke coming out of Kaido's body due to the divine punishment. Without stopping for a moment, it turned into an afterimage and rushed towards him again. Come to think of it, Tyr looked at the torrent of air in front of him with a sad expression on his face. There is nothing wrong with traveling through the past 10 years except for some hardships and pain points. Sitting on a small island of world trade, surrounded by stunning beauties who bow their heads. The military and combat support are taken care of by a kainu, the only drawback is that it is too emotional. It also became Tyr's painful weakness. Boom! The two swords split the air, and the two began a close confrontation. When it comes to physical strength, Kaido is not afraid of anyone in the whole world. Even first-generation Kitetsu, who doesn't have haki, can't break his defense. In the next final battle with Kaido, Tail swung his sword and tore the bandage on his wrist. The last afterglow of the sunset disappeared, and the last ray of sunshine disappeared on the horizon. The sky battlefield belongs to Big Mom and Fujitora, and the dilapidated land of Onigashima is the traces of the fierce battle between Kaido and Tyr. Damn it! Where did your body get the strength to last for so long? Kaido asked, holding his weapon and looking down at Tai, who was motionless and breathing heavily in front of him. For several hours since the battle began, he had never heard anything spoken by Tyr except his battle roar. Wei-guo, tiger. Advertisement in the distance, the heat wave of the fierce battle between Fujitora and Big Mom spread to their side. That blind man can actually fight Linlin on par. Where did you find the master? Kaido suddenly became vigilant and saw the sword light shining in Tyr's eyes. Terrible cracks appeared in the air behind him, as if the space was naturally fragmented, and many huge sword blades appeared. What kind of weird move is this again? Shoot him, Tell ordered. In the torn space, sword blades that were about the same size as Kaido's body began to attack him one by one. Haha, are you asking me to play baseball? Boom. Under the silver moon, Kaido swung his mace again and again, shattering the giant sword created by Tyr's ability. No, Tyr let go of the first-generation ghost in his left hand, stretched out his sword fingers and concentrated sword energy on his palm. No, what is that going to do? This kind of attack doesn't work on me, you should know that. I want to end this chaos. Hearing this, Taylor burst into laughter. While mocking Tyr, he quickly swung the mace to crush Tyr's moves. It's really ridiculous, kid, you are still too young. There is no peace, equality, or stability in this world. Only supreme force is the power to control everything. Obviously, you haven't understood what kind of dream you are having. Facing Tyr, who only has fruit abilities and no conquerors, Kaido is not worried at all that he will be successfully conquered by Tyr. The only thing he was angry about was that all the power he had accumulated over the years was wiped out by Tyr in an instant. You're just in your early 20s and you want to change the world? Who gave you the courage? The constant sarcasm on his lips did not make Kaido lower his guard against Tyr. He watched with his own eyes as Tyr pointed the sword at his temple and said doubtfully, "What are you going to do? Are you going to hurt yourself if you can't beat me?" Tyr let the power on the sword finger rush into his brain, cutting off one of the 6 desires. This activates the unlimited power of the fruit's abilities. Boom! An impact storm of power suddenly spread in all directions from Tyr's feet. The giant sword in the sword space stopped attacking, and Kaido's body was blown by this huge impact storm. What's going on? The momentum and murderous intent in him have increased several times. Cut away all thoughts and desires. Chapter 184 The Country of Wano, a drop in the ocean, a heavy blow. Give up the desire to live hard, and focus everything on the battle in front of you that can change the world. The devil fruit power in Tyr's body was fully activated. Release the divinity that a sword god should have. Within the range of his murderous intent, the surrounding air suddenly cooled down, causing Kaido, Linlin, and Hancock, who was fighting Yamato below the top of Onigashima, to feel the chill in the air. Kid, are you crazy? Give up the desires that humans should have and let their power surge? Kaido roared in shock. He didn't understand why Taylor did this. Wait, what exactly is this guy's fruit power? Why does he have this ability to cut off all emotions and desires? This is not the same as, give up your soul? Come and gain power? After reacting, Kaido immediately rushed towards Tyr with his stick in hand, trying to stop him with the domineering power contained in the weapon. 2 desires. Death. Boom. An even more violent shockwave erupted from Tyr's body. How could I let you succeed? Fujitora and Big Mom, who were fighting in the air, were forcibly separated by this aura. Zeus under his feet was blown away by the impact of Tyr's increase in power, as if he was about to scatter at any time. Kaido, what are you doing? Can a woman really influence you to this point? After being forcibly separated, Fujitora held a knife and looked at Tyr, who had released his ability. He suddenly remembered what he said when he was drinking with him. Once Tyr begins to abandon his soul, he will gain unprecedented power that no one in this world can shake. As a price, many thinking souls as human beings may be lost, and there will also be serious deficiencies in character. This was also the first time that Tyr told outsiders about his devil fruit abilities. Thunder 8 trigrams. Lightning and Kaido's attack came at the same time in front of Tyr, and the mace containing divine power fell from above. No one in this world can defeat me yet, kid. Tyr, who had cut off the desire for life and death from his 7 emotions and 6 desires, swung both swords at Kaido at the same time. Boom. The moment the 2 weapons were exchanged, Kaido seemed to feel a huge mountain that could not be moved, and instantly bounced his thundering 8 trigrams away. Together with Kaido's huge body, they were slashed into the air by Tyr. How is this possible? This guy was completely at a disadvantage just now. At this moment, Kaido's shocked heart could not be expressed in words. I said that as long as I fail again, I will become a box. Having abandoned his desire for life and death, he now has no desire for life and will not try to live hard. Advertisement abandoning the knowledge and fear of death, he turned himself into a monster whose view of living things changed drastically. What he gained in turn was the power to surpass the 4 emperors with his remaining body, and was even more powerful than the 4 emperors. Do you want to continue? Tyr thought to himself, the sword finger of his left hand still pointing at his temple. Now, his soul has lost some of the things necessary for human existence. Seeing Kaido in the air transform into a huge blue dragon, Tyr acted very calmly. Tyr, who was considering whether to cut off his 3rd desire, stared at Kaido with a look of indifference as the terrible hot breath condensed in his mouth. Forget it, that's enough. Tyr, who is full of strength, no longer needs to improve. Next moment, the sword energy suddenly released from his body spread across the world, and with his body floating in the air, the huge sword energy turned into a shocking giant sword. It was several times larger than Kaido's blue dragon body, and he raised his sword in the sky above Tyr and swung it at Kaido. Dragon breath. Kaido breathed out the blazing dragon's breath in one blow and rushed directly into the air where Tyr was, intending to burn him alive. Where did this guy get his power? Is it a rare species? A fruit that is not recorded in the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia. The flame dragon's breath was instantly swallowed up by Tyr's move and turned into a small flame that dissipated in the air. Kaido was stunned when he was hit head-on by the shocking giant sword, and his body fell towards the bottom of Onigashima at high speed. Unable to withstand the heavy pressure from Tyr's attack. An attack without hockey. Why does it make me feel so heavy? Boom. I will kill you with the next blow, Kaido of the 100 Beasts. Perhaps, only by killing them all and killing them until the whole world is afraid can people be afraid of Tyr's existence. Boom. Kaido, who fell into the land of Onigashima, turned into a human animal form, with terrifying purple lightning lingering all over his body. There was a scar on the chest that was deep enough to show the bone. He approached Tyr with a devilish look on his face and a mace in hand. The whole body is wrapped in dragon scales. Kill me? Who gave you the courage? Don't think that you can defeat me by increasing your strength, it's simply impossible. My existence is the nemesis of all of you. With that said, Tyr threw away first-generation Kitetsu, focused half of his sword energy on the black sword, and aimed the blade at Kaido's body. In his sight, he had already divided Kaido into two halves. Tyr, who would not use the 10th slash easily, had an extremely serious side effect. That would seriously overdraw his body and cause his combat power to drop significantly. Advertisement: regardless of whether he is at full health or with residual health, the 10th slash will instantly overdraw him. Kaido. Get out of the way. Linlin, who discovered that there was something wrong with the strength of the Tyr sword, immediately reminded her. In the moment of distraction, her body was cut from the air and fell to the Ghost Island by Fujitora. Fujitora faced Tyr, felt the power of the blade in his hand and said in a deep voice. Are you going to use that move again? It seems you want to end the battle quickly. My story continues to develop. Taylor's voice spread throughout the Ghost Island. The people of future generations will understand that it is I, Tyr, who will suppress all evil for eternity after destroying you to create peace for eternity. Tyr's bold words were not false, after everything ended in Wano country. World government is the only hidden danger left. You mean 10,000 years? Who can live that long? By launching this move, Tail almost exhausted all his physical strength, and its power can be said to be a reduced version of the 10th slash. Cut it down with one sword. In an instant, the sword light was like a waterfall, like a dragon walking and a snake swimming. The light was as bright as a falling star, so intense that it was impossible to see. The top of the Ghost Island collapsed, and the ocean below was boiling, all caused by the power of Tyr's sword. Kaido looked at the terrifying sword energy in front of him that could not be avoided, and then looked at Tyr, who was wielding the sword, as quiet as a mountain and as deep as the sea. At this moment, Kaido seemed to have understood, as if everything surrendered under his power. However, under the power of Tyr's sword, Kaido suddenly smiled brightly. Holding the weapon, he charged straight into Tyr's peerless sword with excitement on his face. This is where I belong. The moment Charlotte Linlin discovered Kaido rushing towards Tyr's sword energy, it was as if he was taking steps towards the gate of hell. Kaido, are you crazy? Have you forgotten your promise to me? It's impossible to hide, Linlin. Suddenly, the air in the nearby area vibrated. The top of the ancient Ghost Island was reduced to ruins under Tyr's sword. Kaido, who was swallowed up, resisted tenaciously for a few seconds and was rushed into the clouds by the sword's energy. The sky was split with a sword, creating a dazzling sea of stars in the universe. Drop in the ocean. After the move ended, Tyr watched Kaido fall from the sky powerlessly and read out the name of the move. He stood there like an eternal mountain, and his sword was like a key to the new world. A single blow severely injured Kaido the Beast, leaving him uncertain whether he was alive or dead at the moment. The sword energy rushed into the sky 10,000 meters into the air and instantly exploded into brilliant Hanabi energy, scattering the entire black cloud in the sky of Wano. Only the bright full moon was left hanging high, reflecting Tyr's desolate expression as he lost someone he didn't want to lose. The sword is a murderous weapon, and I am a righteous man holding a murderous weapon to crush evil. Even if I kill thousands of creatures, I will create a new era. Chapter 185 Wano Country, the absolute power to crush the four emperors. New Malinvondo. A marine officer hurriedly ran towards Akainu's office. Ga. Pulling the gate of opening, the soldier looked horrified and immediately spoke. Urgent battle report. Sakaski Fleet Admiral, Akainu, with a cigar in his mouth and documents in his hand, looked serious and resolute. He looked up at the soldiers holding scattered documents. What's wrong? Are you in such a hurry? Half of the main city of Wano, the Flower City, was wiped out by General Tyr in an instant, with more than 350,000 civilians killed and injured. Where did the news come from? Akainu's first reaction when he heard this information was to find a source for the news to spread. 5 elders. Don't they know that once this kind of news spreads, Marine's reputation on the sea will be destroyed? Akainu punched the table in front of him with worry on his face. But this is a fact. The soldier handed all the photos taken by CP0 to Akainu and continued. The 5 elders want you to give an explanation to the people of Dahai after the war is over. Looking at the photo, half of the Flower City has been reduced to ruins, and there are still sword blades piercing Big Mom and the cadres of the Beast's pirates all over the place. Explain? Akainu took off the cigar from his mouth and looked down upon 5 elders' words. Yes, they probably want to use the panic of the world's civilians to suppress us Marine. The country of Wano already has threats that threaten the world government. Are the 5 of them stupid? Wouldn't the elimination of the hidden dangers that threaten the government be eradicated? As Fleet Admiral, Akainu has gained a full understanding of the world's situation over the past year. If evil is to be eradicated, the country of Wano, which has been locked away for 800 years, must be eradicated. He fully agrees with Tyr's massacre. But, more than 300,000 innocent lives, the soldier felt pity. What are you doing? Akainu said angrily to him after hearing this. This is a war to annihilate the 4 emperors. It's worth it no matter how many people die. Give an explanation to the common people of the world? Akainu simply sneered at the 5 elders' actions. Tyr, who was basically working for them, was fighting a bloody battle on the front line, while a few old men who could only talk on paper were playing dirty tricks behind the scenes. How is Tyr himself? Is the injury serious? Immediately, Akainu asked the soldiers about Tyr's injuries. Since there was such information, it must be about Tyr's condition. The red-haired pirates and Rayleigh were all annihilated by General Tyr and the Green Bull. Currently, the general is fighting the final battle on Ghost Island. I'm talking about his injuries. The soldier was frightened by Akainu's drink and hurriedly replied, I don't know, but the informant's information says that his injuries are not serious. Advertisement, how could it be nothing serious? Every time the guy started fighting, the horror of death or injury was more shocking than anyone else. Brew. Just as Akainu was guessing, the phone on the table in front of him suddenly rang. This is headquarters. Sakaski Fleet Admiral, Zepha instructor, who disappeared for nearly a year, appears. Zepha? Sakaski was confused. That's right, instructor is taking dozens of warships to sail to the secret base where the explosive rocks are stored. The sound of a cannonball explosion drowned the Marines' scout ship deployed in New World. Hey, are you okay? Sakaski stared at the phone bug in his hand that had lost its signal, lost in thought and a little panic. At a time when the entire Marine Corps is paying attention to the war in Wano, what is the point of going to a dynamite rock storage base that is comparable to the ancient weapon? Fleet Admiral, I have some official business, why don't you go down first? Go and inform the 5 elders that they'd better not get involved in Wano's affairs. Don't worry, let us, Marine, handle it. Learn. After joining Fleet Admiral, Akainu realized just how stressful this position is. Completely obey the orders of the world government, that is, the 5 elders. They must also be given instructions for the deployment of soldiers, which makes Sakaski feel like he is simply a Marine Fleet Admiral. The key is not to leave his post without authorization. Hateful. With his resolute character, he naturally cannot accept such treatment. What do they think of Marine's justice? Patience. Now Sakaski can only be patient and wait for Tyr to return after conquering the 4 emperors on the sea, so that he can change the current regime of Marine under the government. He is boiling as magma that can burn the world, and seems to erupt at any time to cover all the darkness and evil in the world. The top of Ghost Island. The place is filled with dust and is almost a mess. Bang. Holding the mace, he instantly wrapped it around Bateng and threw it at Tyr. Fully believe that Fujitora has the power to defeat her. An indiscriminate attack was launched over Onigashima. Big Mom, who was injured by Fujitora, also fell into a violent rage. Prometheus was as hot as the sun, and Zeus was exuding thunder. Advertisement tail crushed Kaido into the ground, and a huge sword energy instantly rushed out of the sword and swallowed him up. Staring at Tyr's flawless body, he fell into deep confusion. Known as the strongest creature in the world, he broke through Tyr's defense with a non-domineering move, and the blue reverse scales all over his body were covered with red blood. The body was rushed into the huge space under the Ghost Island by the sword energy. Tyr paid the price of his soul to obtain this powerful power. Who are you? Kaido walked out of the smoke and asked Tyr. It hurts. In that blow, he seemed to predict the future and saw his own failure. Who gave you the title of the strongest creature in the world? Kaido staggered to his feet in the smoke. It was hard to believe that his huge body was already crumbling. Ahem. Kaido was disgusted with staring at Tyr's expressionless face. In a flash, Tyr came behind Kaido, catching him off guard. He let out a painful roar for the first time in nearly 30 years, and used the strength of his arms for an instant. Upon seeing this, Kaido exuded a terrifying aura that destroyed the surrounding terrain. Boom. Your time is over. The earth that was split by the sword energy looked like a piece of extinguished ashes with hot smoke rising. With just his sword skills and sword energy, he easily crushed Kaido to the point where he was unable to fight back. The bursting air was filled with the impact of the collision between the two. First a Marine, a monster who emerged from the killings. Those who know me call me a madman. He is indeed a lunatic. Kaido was covered in scars, covering his chest with one hand and kneeling on the ground holding the mace in the other. The body was suddenly crushed by the divine power coming from the Tyr knife and slammed into the ground. An emotionless voice, extremely decisive actions, and a strength that far exceeds that of the 4 emperors. As for the battle between Fujitora and Big Mom, Taylor wouldn't take a look at it at all. With just one hand, he was able to borrow the power he had honed for decades, and it was also the attack in the human-animal form of the awakened phantom beast species. Kaido let out a scream that he had never seen before. Isn't it obvious? Tyr's expression was as cold as a Shinigami's, and there was no warmth in his body except for the icy chill. An earth-shaking gravity suddenly distorted the space around her, and all the fire and thunder pouring towards the ground bounced back into the sky. The ground beneath his feet began to crack extensively. Chapter 186. The country of Wano. Kaido is defeated, and the sky-shattering meteor strikes. Telephone stood in the huge pothole in front of him with his sword in hand, looking at Kaido lying in the hall of Onigashima below. Kaido. Yamato, who was fighting Hancock in the lobby, was stunned. I told you, we are really here to defeat Kaido. Hancock continued to explain to Yamato and knocked her back with a kick. He looked up at Teal at the edge of the big hole at the top with a shocked face. Leaving the dome of Onigashima, which was gradually expanding in gravitational space, Taylor jumped from the edge of the pit. An aura that was even colder than the road to hell spread throughout the bloody Onigashima Hall as Tyr approached. Under this murderous aura, everyone was shocked. Yamato's body trembled. He clenched the mace with both hands and looked back at Tyr, who jumped down from the ghost island. The air around here has become colder due to his arrival. What's going on? What shocked her even more was that Kaido stood up from the pothole and covered his head with a shocked expression on his face, as if he had encountered a ghost. Kaido, you were defeated. Damn it, don't be so insignificant, Yamato. I'm your father. That's great, another daughter. Tail walked towards Kaido with a knife. Keep your eyes on Yamato. Do you know how much Shanks wanted to save his adopted daughter before I killed him? Get out of here, Yamato. Kaido heard Tyr's words, looked at Yamato and shouted sternly. Who wants to listen to you, a monster, a stinky gorilla? Tail quickly crushed the air and moved directly towards Yamato. Without giving them time to talk, they wanted to take away Kaido's love and see what he looked like. Damn madman, his strength suddenly became so strong. Kaido immediately stood up, holding the mace with both hands and released Conquerors. Great mighty virtue. A dragon roar shattered the spines around him, and Kaido no longer hid any strength and attacked with all his strength. Everything is in vain. Tyr released a shocking murderous aura all over his body. The already bruised body slashed at Kaido with all his strength. In vain? If I don't fight against fate, will I be defeated by you like this? What kind of world-class joke are you kidding? Thunder 8 trigrams. Feeling Kaido's unyielding will, all his life's learning was poured into this attack. Tyr turned on Liu Ying's domineering power to the maximum, and felt physically uncomfortable. Huh? Kaido noticed something strange and sped up his swing. It's just death, Tyr said calmly, and forcibly activated the terrifying domineering force to fight. Boom. Advertisement. The moment the two weapons collided, the entire Onigashima Hall was shaken by their power. The sharp blade of wind can tear everything apart and destroy everything. Yamato almost fell into a daze, staring straight at Tyr, who had put Leto at a disadvantage. Why, even though this guy looks so weak, why can he crush Kaido in strength? No matter in terms of size or domineering strength, Tyr has no advantage now. However, he was able to exert his devil fruit abilities beyond those before and completely suppress Kaido. There is also the great physical strength gained from sudden soul sacrifice. Crazy people do things. During the collision of weapons, Tyr looked coldly into Kaido's eyes and said, "But I won't care about the consequences." Kaido's whole body was shaken, and the power of the 8 trigrams was weakening in front of Tyr's power. I've had this pain for so many years, but I can't get excited. Because you face me physically and mentally with fear of failure. The next moment, Tyr's sword energy spread throughout his body as the core strength of his body. Activate the most powerful force currently available. One blow cut off Kaido's mace wrapped around Haki. Wait, the black sword cut open the dragon scales, and Kaido's entire right arm fell off from his body with a stunning sword light. Boom. The huge slash that shocked the entire Ghost Island instantly swept through the entire Ghost Island. Cut Onigashima Kido in half with one strike. The terrifying destructive power triggered a huge tsunami in the surrounding area, hitting many areas in Wano country. The earth trembled, and red lightning roared over Wano. It touches every living citizen of this country. Tyr's blow shook the sky and the sea, and sent the Tinling Guy flying to Onigashima, showing the Kamui of Marine General. In the smoke and dust, Yamato lifted up the boulder that swallowed her and stood up, looking for Kaido and Tail in the thick smoke. She desperately wanted to know who had won. Where? After a while, she heard the sound of her knees hitting the ground not far away. Yamato ran away looking for the sound and saw a scene he would never forget in his life. His father's majestic and burly body lay on the ground unconscious, and Tyr, who was kneeling on the ground with a black line on his face, was holding the handle of the knife inserted in the ground motionless. The moonlight shone into the interior of Onigashima, and the fierce battle that filled the sky with thunder, lightning, and flames tore through the sky could not divert Yamato's shocking gaze from Tyr at this moment. Advertisement. She walked towards Tell with her weapon in hand, put her left hand on her chest and introduced herself with a very polite honorific. I'm Kazuki Oden. Excuse me. As soon as she heard the name, Tyr dragged his body up and pointed the knife at her, and asked in a cold voice. Are you also loyal to that beast? Huh? How can you say this? Yamato was stunned and didn't understand why Teal scolded Oden. Everyone related to the beast Kazuki Oden will be killed by me. This is also one of the purposes of this trip. Tell said what was in his heart. Not knowing that Chisha was still alive, he had no other thoughts in his mind except missions and goals. What are you talking about? Yamato didn't understand what Teal said. Kazuki Oden is a great hero of Wano country. By the way, where is his son? you must have come to Wano country to help Momonosuke. Is it from Kaido? What a pity. Tyr looked at Kaido, who was unconscious. I can't let you watch your daughter die in front of you, Kaido of the 100 Beasts. Feeling Tyr's cold expression, Yamato realized something was wrong. What's going on? Didn't you come to attack Kaido to liberate Wano country? Yamato continued to ask. Don't ask, he didn't come to conquer the 4 emperors for Wano country, but for a new era of peace. The surrounding smoke cleared, and Hancock appeared next to Tyr and said to Yamato. What about Momonosuke? They were stewed and eaten by the people. After Tyr finished speaking, he quickly stabbed Yamato's body with a knife. She had no intention of showing mercy at all, and while exuding fatal killing intent towards him, she severely wounded her with a single strike of her sword. What are you doing? Blood spurted out from Yamato's chest and mouth at the same time, and he still hadn't figured out why Taylor attacked him. Deeply influenced by the samurai of Wano, Yamato now worships Kazuki Oden more than anyone else. She even thinks of herself as Kazuki Oden, cut out all hidden dangers. As soon as the knife was slashed out, Tyr felt an itching sensation in his throat, and a fatal pain swept through his body. Scarlet blood spat out of his throat, and Tyr knelt on the ground again, feeling extremely uncomfortable. However, his expression showed a smile. Having cut off his desire for life and death, he has no fear of this near-death state, but his body can no longer support his nonsense. I'm about to faint. I'm so tired. Teal looked at Yamato, who fell to the ground in front of him, and when he wanted to go up and hit him again, his gradually blurred vision turned his world into darkness. A smile appeared on Tyr's face, and he thought it would be good to just sleep like this. This was his thought after cutting off the 6 desires for life, and there was no desire for life at all. The same goes for death. Yamato got up from the ground, with blood pouring from his mouth, and looked at Tyr, who was lying on the ground with scars all over his back. Hole. Even if you want to kill me, you have to explain the situation. What's going on? She was very angry, and her brain's cognition was confused. She has never set foot on the Ghost Island and does not know everything about the outside world. Suddenly, a meteor that shook the world appeared in the sky, and a huge shadow covered the Ghost Island with only half of its head left. Chapter 187 The Country of Wano, Hell Will Not Accept. Hancock and Yamato looked at the sky at the same time. What is that? Yamato, who was seriously injured by Tyr, was shocked again. The country of Wano today is different from the past. How come a super strong man who can destroy a small island can be seen everywhere? Even the 4 emperors are no match. Fujitora activated his power and summoned terrifying meteorites from the universe to break through the atmosphere and sweep towards Big Mom. You will destroy the entire Ghost Island and the nearby sea. Stop it. Looking at such a huge meteorite, comparable to a meteorite on a giant island, Hancock's spirit was in a state of semi-dementia. Trying to dissuade Fujitora from stopping his attacking moves. Mom, Linlin laughed with a cold sweat on his face. Are you planning to die together, blind man? No, Fujitora launched such a huge move, but his expression remained extremely calm. I just want to know, as the last 4 emperors in the sea, how should you deal with this move? Fujitora, who initiated this move against Linlin, said this very calmly, which made Linlin feel extremely troubled. Kaido's aura had disappeared, and she knew that the blind man in front of her also wanted to end the battle. A huge meteorite like a world-destroying meteorite fell towards Onigashima at an astonishing speed. Zeus, escape from this area immediately. I can't do it, Mom. He restrained me with the gravity of his domineering force. Damn it. Napoleon, use all your strength. Crush it. Crush it. There were drops of sweat on the Napoleon blade in Linlin's hand. How could anyone cut such a terrifying and huge natural disaster meteorite into pieces? Once a meteorite summoned by Fujitora falls, as expected, the entire Onigashima and the mainland of Wano will be affected by an unprecedented destructive explosion. This is a farewell gift for money. As soon as he put the staff sword into its sheath, Fujitora saw a sudden change in Tyr's body on the Ghost Island below. A black mist appeared on the handle of the knife in his hand, and the words life and death, one white and one black, were quickly condensed on the black Tyr knife. Clasped tightly on the hilt of his knife. Teal, hey, what happened to your body? Hancock pushed Tyr's body with his hand, trying to wake him up and prevent him from sleeping. It was discovered that the injuries on his body began to recover at an alarming rate. Your Excellency Sword God, could it be said that your fruit ability has changed again? Fujitora observed the aura in Tyr's body, and an extremely powerful life force was quietly overflowing. Suddenly, Tyr's eyes suddenly opened, his arm on the ground suddenly lifted up, and he sat on the ground looking at his knife. Fujitora, who discovered that the aura in Tyr's body instantly returned to its peak value, thought. Advertisement: this man is full of mysteries. No matter how the world situation changes, he will always stand in his camp. Just as he finished thinking, Fujitora fell into the center of the hall below Onigashima with only half of his head left. His body almost stumbled and fell due to the excessive amount of domineering force he used in an instant. Are you kidding? Such a huge meteorite has a layer of domineering surrounding it? Linlin rushed towards the meteorite with a knife. As if seeing her own fate of falling, she resolutely accepted the last move Fujitora gave her. She doesn't know when General Marine's strength reached such a perverted level? It is completely different from when they galloped across the sea decades ago. Maybe times really have to change. Boom! The violent conquerors that swept through the entire Ghost Island overflowed from Linlin's body, and the Emperor's sword in her hand collided with a sky-shattering star that was as big as the island. Ah! She let out a sharp roar and used all her strength and ability to fight against it. Linlin tenaciously resisted the huge meteorite summoned from the universe by Fujitora. She was hit by the meteorite head-on, but her whole body was still affected by the terrible gravity. The force of her sword slashing at the meteorite caused a strong impact that spread from Onigashima to the entire sea area of Wano country. When Teal woke up, he found Hancock with tears in his eyes and said coldly, "Where is Kaido's daughter, Thunder?" Suddenly, Taylor looked up and saw Yamato holding a mace and swinging it towards him. He instantly held a knife in front of him, 8 trigrams. Bang! The collision of weapons did not make Tyr, who had newly acquired the power of the sword god, feel any pressure. "Explain it to me. What happened to Odin?" With a slight force of Tail's arm, Yamato's thundering 8 trigrams was knocked back. What happened in Wano country, and why was Momonosuke treated so cruelly by the citizens? Originally, she had an unparalleled affection for Tyr because he defeated Kaido, but she never thought that Tyr would almost kill her with one blow. All the injuries suffered in this battle were fully recovered at the moment of recovery. Tyr, who returned from the darkness, has greatly improved both his strength and swordsmanship. Let me give you a ride, the last of the 4 emperors. Advertisement Roger. Are we getting old after all? Thousands of sword energy around him condensed on Tyr's black sword. He stared at Linlin under the meteorite in the air and slashed out with his sword. Tyr's body and sword light penetrated Big Mom's body at the same time, and instantly cut open the sky-shattering meteorite in front of her and rushed into the clouds. Tell me, why does such a monster marine appear in the new era? The huge Jinghong sword chi that was slashed out with a single slash hit Linlin's back accurately. Looking at Tyr approaching quickly, Linlin looked fearful and thought, "A thief is a thief, there is nothing to explain to you." As he said that, Tyr looked at Linlin, who was desperately resisting the meteorite in the sky. The ground on Ghost Island collapsed, and Tyr crushed the ground with his knife and quickly rushed towards the meteorite in the air. Bang! Obviously a few years ago, he was just a brat who could only yell. Why is he so powerful now that even we can't shake him? I have been trapped here for 20 years. Is everything in my mind about the beautiful world outside the sea just an illusion? If hell won't accept it, what can I do? Fujitora was shocked again when he saw Big Mom's perverted physique like a steel balloon, easily broken by Tyr's sword. I really don't know how powerful Tyr is at this moment. Is he already far above the generals and 4 emperors? Boom! Tyr slashed Linlin, which greatly reduced her ability to resist the meteorite, and Fujitora was unable to stop the meteorite. Yamato was about to swing the mace at Tyr again, but Hancock stopped him. This has never happened before. Teal guessed that it was because he had killed Shinigami before, or because his own lifespan was not over. Isn't Odin a friend of the same era as Whitebeard and Roger? Why do you treat him as a sinner? In order to find the truth, Yamato asked Tell seriously. All the abilities in his body were improved, which made him feel amazing. Damn marine brat. Why can you still get up? Stop, you will die if you attack again. You. Brat. Tail, who ignored Yamato, began to gather strength and wrap it around the blade. Get out of the way. I feel an infinite power in my body and I want to release it. Why is the new generation marine so powerful? Let me take you on your last journey, Big Mom. Chapter 188 Wano Country, Fall of 4 Emperors. Charlotte Linlin looked as old as a witch, and a mouthful of blood suddenly overflowed from her mouth. It was the heavy damage caused instantly by Tyr's powerful blow. The absolute defense known as the steel balloon since he was a child is like thin sandpaper under Tyr's black knife and his current power. Boom! The sky-shattering starfall summoned by Fujitora was cut in half by Tyr's sword after he woke up. The red sword light disappeared from the center of the meteorite, and the huge split meteorite fell into the sea on the left and right sides of the Ghost Island, causing a shocking wave. It was as if 2 new islands were formed, standing near Onigashima. After swinging his sword, Tyr, who fell from the air, kicked Charlotte Linlin, who was already seriously injured and beyond recognition, to the underside of Onigashima. In this second, the era belonging to the 4 emperors was completely ended, and Tyr completed the ultimate goal of this trip. If he had known that abandoning part of his soul would lead to such powerful heaven-defying power, Tyr should have let it devour his soul. It's like Tyr's body has integrated the transformation ability of the fantasy beast system, allowing him to return to his normal human appearance except for his eyes. If my guess is correct, my strength is now the pinnacle of this world. Listening to Teal's words, Charlotte Linlin recalled her promiscuous life and had never been able to obtain Roger's treasure by her own methods. Looking at Tyr's harmless face, she couldn't believe that 3-4 emperors were defeated in one day by him, a new generation marine brat who had only shown his talents in recent years. Kid, bang. Her fall caused a huge explosion in the Ghost Island. Big Mom, seriously injured and unconscious. Then again, you only became what you are now after experiencing tragedy. Landing in the middle of the Ghost Island, Tyr stood in the center on both sides of Kaido and Big Mom, and said these words to them from the bottom of his heart. It's as if the characters standing at the top of the pirate sea almost all had the same tragic fate in childhood. Except Shanks. Instead of getting help from Marine, he was despised and murdered by Marine, so he went to the sea to do evil. However, this is only a very small part of Tyr's view of pirates. Definitely not including those pirates who conquered countries, slaughtered kingdoms, and only wanted to have fun by burning and looting. 4 emperors. What is in front of you? Hancock stared at Tyr, who seemed to be doing nothing, in shock, holding the knife with a cold-blooded smile. Suddenly, Tyr looked at Hancock and walked towards her. When he came to Hancock, Tell put the black knife on her chin and picked up her little lips and said, "Hancock, I suddenly feel that everything I did to you before was not wrong. That is the true appearance of human nature." Huh? Hancock was stunned after hearing what Teal said. You are a pirate after all. As he spoke, Tyr's mood became very low, with an expression of frustration and self-blame. Although the woman in front of her is beautiful, she is also a pure love-minded person, even to the point of causing people's 3 senses to explode. Advertisement, because today's Hancock will sacrifice everything for Teal. In her eyes, the lives of her relatives and friends are compared with Teal. None worth mentioning. However, Tyr didn't want to just have her. However, I will live in regret and pain from now on. My world is still black and white, as if there is no way to recover. Now Tyr feels that when the Elbaf family landed on the coast of Zimexiang, Chisha should have been kept out of the area. I can give up being a pirate for you. She looked at Tyr's pupils that had turned into sword blades. Although she was a little shocked, she seemed to be used to this kind of thing around Tyr. Jian Tong is completely different from the previous physical changes. Thinking of it, Tyr found that another person was missing. That was Runti, the 6th generation of the Devil Fruit user, when half of Onigashima's head was chopped off with a sword just now. She flew out with half of Onigashima's head. Your Excellency Sword God, what happened to your power? Fujitora came up behind Tyr with a tired face. Although he looked calm on the surface, he was indescribably shocked by Tyr's current strength. Have no idea. After waking up and fully recovering his body, Tyr's demeanor and appearance seemed to be a bit sluggish and lazy. As if nothing mattered to him, he turned his eyes and stared at Yamato, whose eyes were dull and shocked. Facing her father's defeat, she didn't feel much. This result also made her very happy, and she belonged to that kind of naturally unfilial son. You still want to kill me? I just want to know what happened to Odin. Sensing Tyr's murderous intention, Yamato said angrily. I said, he's just a beast that's more perverted than me, Tyr said coldly, and walked towards Yamato with a knife and looked up at her. Kill it or keep it? Tyr was surprised. He never thought that Yamato could catch his sword and chat with the enemy so easily. Sure enough, Kaido's bloodline. Liar, then you don't believe what I can do? Odin, Yamato recalled the great deed of witnessing Odin being cooked in a cauldron for an hour when he was a child. There is also the kind act of a samurai who is loyal to him and gives her the last rice ball to eat. A great man, and you. From a pirate's perspective, his deeds are indeed considered a legend, but as a marine, Tyr only views things from the side of justice. I remembered. It was the guy who took part in the war and killed Portgas d'Ace 2 years ago. Recalling the contents of the newspaper, Yamato's good impression of Taylor suddenly disappeared. The agreement with Ace was ruined by the man in front of me. Advertisement. This is the best ending for her. With her position and character, she will never give in. Rob Lukey and everyone in CP0 looked terrified. What have you done? Ever since he was attacked by CP0, Taylor had no good impression of this organization at all. Yamato died. Tyr has no interest in forcibly conquering another beast. The Battle of Onigashima ends here. Do you want him to send a message to the 5 elders? Rob Lukey was speechless for a moment, with cold sweat on his face as he was frightened by the words Taylor said. Yamato was in a daze and found that the weapon in his hand was instantly shattered by Tell's knife, and his strength was not in the same dimension at all. Listening to Teal's extremely cold tone, it seemed as if he was giving the world government a blow. Yamato looked dead and fell to the ground. Faith defeated fear, allowing her to raise weapons of resistance against Tyr. So what's going on? Taylor looked at Yamato with a very cold tone and continued. Seeing everything around Onigashima made them look shocked. At this moment, several CP0 spies used moonwalk to come to Onigashima from Wano country. Rob Lukey. Taylor walked up to him, patted his shoulder and said, it would be appropriate for you to handle the information about the defeat of the 4 emperors, right? The arrogant emperor of the sea was lying on the ground like a lamb at the mercy of others. Tyr believes that with his power, Pirate forces like the Four Emperors will never appear on the sea again in the future. Having witnessed the power of Tyr with his own eyes, Yamato is very afraid of him at this moment. It comes from the fear of being a creature. Are you blind? Do you want me to pluck out your eyes and put one in each of them to see clearly? Isn't this obvious? Rob Lukey stared at Tyr's eyes. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead involuntarily. He has already discovered us. Is the battle over? One swing. The failure of the Four Emperors was already a certainty. Taylor was looking for someone to take care of his funeral affairs, and they just came to his door. Who wouldn't be shocked when seeing this scene? You are the enemy. Thump, he even wanted to kill them all together. His younger brother, Straw Hat Luffy, was also personally beheaded by me. Whether it was the 9 heroes of the Red Sky who you said would come to Wano to save the people in 20 years, or Kurozumi Orochi, they all died under my sword. Bang. Then, Tail slashed her throat with a knife. All members of CP0 use moonwalk and land on the Ghost Island. They came to Tyr, looked at Kaido and Big Mom who were unconscious on the left and right, and then looked at Tyr who had almost no damage. Ace. Chapter 189 Wano Country, White Hunter Smoker. Of course. Lu Chi replied in a deep voice with fear on his face. He felt from Tyr that Tyr really dared to kill him. Yishao, please go to the Tuden mine first to see how the battle is going. With that said, Tyr stepped on the flying sword and rushed straight towards Visalia. Don't abandon me, Hancock shouted to Tyr, and his body was immediately controlled by Tyr and flew into the sky. A man who creates miracles. Fujitora curled up the corner of his mouth as he looked at Taylor walking away. Then he stepped on a stone and flew towards the final battlefield of Wano Country. After a while, Tyr, who arrived at Sky Island, hurriedly walked towards the door of Nami Robin's house. Hancock fell from the air onto the Sky Island lawn, and fell flat on his feet. Bang! The door of the room was kicked open by Tyr, and he saw Robin and Nami guarding the bedside taking care of Chisha's body. Teal thought it was a corpse, because the moment the sword energy was disconnected from Chisha's body, he felt that Chisha was dead. Uda, who was a little confused, fell off the chair the moment he saw Tyr, rolled around and huddled in the corner. She was trembling all over and was very afraid of Tyr. Ah! Uda roared in fear. Shut up, if you make any more noise, I'll hurt you. Under Tyr's warning, she forcibly covered her mouth and hesitated to scream again. You can't be pity. Nami walked towards Tyr from the bed, but was pushed aside by him. I won't. Tyr walked to Chisha beside the bed, squatted down and looked at this silly woman. Let Wano Country bury her with her. Robin, who was sitting on the desk and reading a book with his legs crossed, suddenly said. She's not dead, Mr. Marine. Hearing these words, Tyr shook his head and looked at Robin. What did you say? She is not dead, she just fainted and her pulse is still beating. If she is taken care of carefully, she may wake up soon. Tyr stretched out his hand and pinched Chisha's wrist. Although he couldn't feel any breath, he could really feel the weak beating pulse. Every weak beat made Tyr's heart tremble. Ha ha ha. Tyr, who smiled like a madman, covered his face. At this moment, he was so happy that he couldn't help himself. Fate was finally on his side and would not let him lose the people he cared about in the same way again. I didn't expect that besides being a bit perverted, you also have such an affectionate side, Nami complained. She has not forgotten everything that Tyr did to her when he first captured her. Advertisement after year, Nami slowly accepted it. All members of the Straw Hats were killed by Tyr. If they didn't think about how to survive in the future, they would probably be killed too. Had to compromise. There was a room full of peerless beauties, both in figure and appearance, who were among the best in the world. Hancock leaned against the door with his arms folded and felt a little jealous. Cut. Touching Chisha's face gently, Tyr let go of his worries. How is the war situation in Wano? Nami asked again curiously. Robin, Uda and the others immediately looked at Tyr seriously. Except for his pants stained red with blood and old injuries all over his body, Tyr's body seemed to be fine. Robin observed Tyr's eyes from the side of his face. What were those eyes? A sword? She became a little curious. Kaido, Big Mom, Red Hair, including thousands of giants brought by King Elbaf, were all defeated by this guy. Hancock told the truth about the battle, leaving Robin and Nami in disbelief. What Yuta said is true. How did you do it? Those are the Four Emperors. Robin asked, staring at Tyr in surprise. Yes. The man in front of him really has the power to change everything. O'Hara's knowledge can really spread around the world. What he said before was not a joke. She recalled the words of promise Tyr gave her before she committed suicide. After checking Chisha's problem and confirming that she was fine as long as she needed a good rest, Tyr stood up and looked at them in the room. You. Don't come here. Uda noticed that Tyr finally focused his attention on himself, and his body trembled even more violently. Do you want to die or live, red-haired daughter? Taylor came to her and lifted her from the corner with one hand and stared at her. Uda is not the red-haired biological daughter, and her abilities are also very abnormal. After Totenjika was eliminated, Her ability was almost without combat effectiveness, but she had the most abnormal control ability in the world. The domineering and irresistible singing can force people to fall asleep and take them to another world. Me. Can't you be gentler? You be *************** D. My tenderness is not for people other than myself. Tyr looked indifferent, with a bit of arrogance. After cutting off both desires, his character and thoughts were seriously affected. Nami was speechless, thinking that this was indeed the case with Tyr's character. Uda is just a war tool for him to seduce the red-haired pirates. But now, the red-haired pirates have been destroyed, and Uda's existence has lost a lot of meaning. Maybe he will kill Uda. Seeing that Uda was silent, Tell continued to ask, the government really wants your head. Advertisement, I want to live. I haven't created a new era yet. I want to give the suffering people of the world a new era of peace. This made Tyr no doubt that if he hadn't gone to Erigia to abduct her before, most of the people in the world might have been brought into the dream. Shaking Uda away, Tyr put his hands in his pockets and walked outside the house. Then you have to live a good life. Maybe I will get in the mood that day and do it for you all. Pervert. Nami blushed and cursed. Maybe it's time to experience life, Robin said with a calm smile. Uda was even more frightened. She thought what Tyr meant was murder. From the edge of the Sky Island, he looked towards the country of Wano 10,000 meters below. I am also. Hancock, stay here, I'm going to end this war. Don't neglect me. To prevent Hancock from following up, Tyr turned into a ball of sword energy and merged into his black sword. It continued to expand, and finally turned into a red giant sword and disappeared in Visalia, exploding towards the island below Wano country. Mr. Kaido lost. Stop lying. The general of the white-headed pirates, Jin, stood in the air, with two huge flames spinning around his body, hovering around his body and overlooking the approximately 100,000 marines in the Tuden mine. Fire Dragon Emperor. The ring of flames that burned the world began to gather towards his island. As expected of the second in command of the beast pirates. Smoker stared at the surroundings of Jin in the air. The flames rotating at high speed in the air turned into giant flame dragons and rushed into the ground. I'm Logia too, there's absolutely no difference between smoke and fire. Major General Smoker, what are you going to do? Are you going to fight against that huge flame dragon? Before he had time to think, countless white smoke rose into the sky from Smoker's body, turning into a move to fight against the flame dragon's fist and rushed towards Jin. We can't let that be ************ D bear everything. This war to eliminate the four emperors is a battle for all of us. The Yan fruit ability is fully activated. Even though he knew that Jin's level of combat power was beyond his reach, he still had to contribute his strength to everyone at this moment. Damn it, even the whole world can only leave a weak scar on him? Zoro, who was defeated by Jin on the side, climbed up from the pothole ground with a letter of Hedao in his mouth. Smoke and fire collided brilliantly in the air, and the temperature in the entire Udon area soared instantly. What, you, a weak marine, stopped my dragon? Don't even think about leaving these huge flame dragons behind. The soldiers can't withstand your slaughter. Jin's eyes widened as he watched helplessly as his flame dragons were extinguished in the air by Smoker's smoke, although several of them rushed out of the white smoke. Mom 2. Gion Momoshage, who was fighting Katakuri, the second in command of the Big Mom pirates, seemed particularly relaxed. Chapter 190 Wano Country, Victory in the War. Damn it, I can't hold on any longer. Smoker looked bitter as he maximized his devil fruit ability. Even if he tried his best, he could not completely intercept Jin's flame dragon. The flame dragon broke through the white fist and wreaked havoc on the ground battlefield. The lieutenant generals could only stop one with their swords, and watched a large number of soldiers being swallowed by the flame dragon. They are powerless. In front of Jin, whose strength is second only to Kaido in the Beast Pirates, even the lieutenant general has almost no ability to resist. Although there was a terrible shockwave coming from the other side of Onigashima, there is no doubt that it was the clarion call for Mr. Kaido's victory over Marine. Jin would never believe that Kaido would lose anyway. The flame dragon slaughtered the soldiers wantonly, venting his anger that he thought Marine had lied to him. There is no creature in this world that can defeat Mr. Kaido. Boom! A huge explosion resounded from the air above Jin's head. He looked up at Tyr, who turned into a sword from the Sky Island and swooped down towards him. The huge black sword was surrounded by terrifying impact barriers, causing Jin's expression to turn pale in an instant. This is that kid's move. Shouldn't he be fighting Big Mom with Mr. Kaido on Onigashima? Why does he appear here? Could it be? The belief in his heart was shaken at this moment. The appearance of Tyr made him more convinced of Kaido's defeat. However, greater difficulties are now approaching his body. If he were hit by Tyr's blow, he would be seriously injured even if he didn't die. Jin waved his hands, quickly merging countless flame dragons that slaughtered Marine on the battlefield. He rushed towards Tyr, who was falling rapidly in the air. The 1,000-meter flaming dragon rushed into the air, and the surrounding air was burned by the high temperature emitted by the dragon. Guardian Fire Dragon Emperor, Jin roared with a ferocious expression on his face, constantly letting the Lunarian flames spurt out of his body. He stared at the giant sword in the air, surrounded by the fearsome conquerors. The appearance of Tyr made him seem to have the answer in his heart. Tyr, Smoker, who returned to his human form from the smoke state, knelt on the ground and looked up at the sky with a look of embarrassment on his face. Is he okay? What a powerful domineering force. This guy can still maintain this kind of power after a big battle? Rumble. The moment the gigantic 1,000-meter-long flame dragon collided with Tyr, who turned into a sword, the surrounding world was shrouded in a terrifying shockwave. Advertisement: the surviving soldiers could only pull each other to prevent being blown away by the storm-like impact. Jin watched as his moves were collapsing from the dragon's head, and when he let out a desperate roar, he refused to give up. The terrifying sword light instantly penetrated the sky from 1,000 meters above, cutting the giant dragon in half, and shot down Jin's body from the air. Like thunder, it penetrated him and fell to the ground in the rabbit battle zone. Kaido can't even catch him a blow, let alone you, loyal dog. Bang! The ground shook, and a terrifying shockwave spread to the surrounding area, knocking away countless pirates from the beast pirates, and some soldiers were also knocked away by the impact. Ha ha ha, come to think of it, you guys are really tall. One arm is thicker and taller than Tyr's body. One can imagine how terrifying this pirate group was before. It is no exaggeration to call them the most powerful pirate group in the world. However, I met Tyr, a time traveler. Tail walked out of the smoke and dust while holding Jin, who was severely injured by him in an instant, and faced the people around him with a confident smile that looked at the mountains. Defeated Jin, one of the 3 plagues, with 1 strike. Sword God General. How scary, Mr. General, you are so powerful. Cough. Jin's body reacted instantly, his face looked extremely painful and he spat out a drop of blood. Teal. Are you okay? How are Kaido and Big Mom? Dasky came to Tyr carrying his Wajo and asked. How could something happen to me? What's wrong with your eyes? Is there a sword inside? Have no idea. Taylor had never looked in the mirror and didn't know what his eyes looked like. Why do you feel a little different? Dasky felt very strange when she noticed that Tyr's extremely serious aura before the battle disappeared. Why is it different? You stupid woman. You. Dasky had a puzzled look on her face. Listening to Tyr scolding her, she seemed to feel a familiar feeling that she had not seen for a long time. Tyr pulled out the black knife from Jin's chest and looked at him with an extremely arrogant smile, as if he was looking at an ant. Huh, what kind of monster are you? Jin looked at Tyr in confusion as he pulled out the black-red blade from his chest. Later, he fainted due to his injuries. When the rest of the beast pirates, who were wearing beast leather, saw this scene, they immediately put down their troops and knelt on the ground to surrender. The generals of their pirate group have been defeated, so what resources do they have left to fight Marine? Isn't it just a matter of death? Tyr turned and looked at the body of Gion Momoshage dancing in the wind in the distance, who was fighting Katakuri. Advertisement, Little Tailor, she shouted with a smile on her face. What? Tyr responded to Gion. I have to say, you are truly the most amazing man I have ever seen, ha ha ha. Wonderful. Is this what I used to describe you in your mind? Are you sure it's not Bohemian? Seeing that Gion was able to handle the situation with ease and was distracted by chatting with Tyr and fighting with him, Katakuri clearly felt in his brain that he was almost defeated. He lowered his dignity and asked lightly, Where's my sister, Marine? Who knows? Taylor replied with a grin. Well, you don't know either. Seeing Tyr's indifferent answer, he already had the answer in his heart. After cleaning up the rest of the pirates and fish in the Udon mining area, Fujitora rushed over with a staff sword that contained terrifying gravity. Your Majesty the Sword God, let me end this war. Just as he was walking towards Katakuri with a knife, he was stopped by Tyr. Huh? What do you mean, Lord Sword God? I believe our beautiful Lieutenant General Momoshage can end the battle soon. Little Slippery, when did your mouth become sweet? After hearing Ty's praise, Gion Momoshage unleashed his full strength to attack Katakuri. With her superb swordsmanship and powerful own aura, she quickly defeated Katakuri with a crushing force. Predicting the future cannot make up for the gap in strength level. After all, Gion Momoshage is not weak. You, Gion said with curiosity on his face, holding the knife that killed Katakuri, wearing a cloak of justice, and strolled up to Tyr and looked at his face. It seems to be different from before. Where has the heavy breath gone? Okay, Lieutenant General Momoshage, if you want to know, you'd better wait until all the wounded are settled, and the two of us can talk in detail in private. Gion put Jinpira into the scabbard and showed a doting smile to Tyr. Although she didn't know what Ty had gone through, she noticed that Ty's aura was no longer so solemn, and she also let go of her long-standing worries about Ty. Okay. After agreeing to Taylor's request, Gion Momoshage instantly regained his serious expression and shouted to everyone. All surviving soldiers, rescue the injured immediately. This war with the 4 emperors is won. Thank you for your dedication to justice. Now you can go home to find your family and reunite with them. Tyr also said a word to them. He knew very well that after the war, soldiers longed for family and freedom. Looking at the devastated battlefield and the countless dead and wounded soldiers, Tyr was still determined not to dispatch such a large force in the future. He will also be fully responsible for the casualties, and will be blamed by the soldiers' families when the time comes. The end of this war represents the eve of a new era. The 4 emperors, who shook the sea and frightened the world, no longer exist. The estimated casualties of the 300,000-strong army exceeded 100,000, and the total casualties of Kaido and the Big Mom pirates also exceeded 100,000. Chapter 191 Wano Country, Destruction of Samurai. The war against the 4 emperors has ended. Tail took Gion Momoshage to the udon mine. Along the way there were giants, pirates, and the lucky 4 emperors' officials who were bound by chains. Finally, it's over. Belabeti, who inspired more than 200,000 soldiers, lay on the ground, compared with before the war. Her face was much pale, as if she had collapsed. Thank you for your hard work, sister who likes red miniskirts. Taylor, who passed by Belabeti, said something to her. The eldest sister? Betty was startled and found that Tyr was a little different from before. Hey, there are warriors inside who are resisting Wano, Belabeti reminded. Isn't this what we need to solve? Arriving at Rabbit Square, Tell and Gion were surrounded by a large number of liberated prisoners holding knives. 90% of them wear the classic hairstyle of Wano, which is Yu's hairstyle. Are they them? Tyr yawned and stared at the fierce warriors in front of him. There were about 20 or 30 dead marine soldiers on the ground behind them. That's right. Gion responded. After rescuing them and telling them a series of events that happened in the flower capital, they started attacking the soldiers. Damn marine. Do you have the nerve to talk about this? How are you going to give us an explanation? Lord Momonosuke's death, and Lord Oden's daughter Hiyori. Teal. Wait. Gion saw Teal walking forward alone, and faced about 1,000 samurai workers to stop him. They are all samurai who have been forcibly imprisoned by Kaido and have been working here for 20 years, but are still unwilling to obey Kaido. Putting out his hand to stop Gion from coming forward, Tyr stared at her sideways and said, "Leave it to me, Gion." Gion stopped, turned around, crossed his arms and lowered his head silently. It's him. Lord Hisong, who not only caused public outrage among the people, but also wiped out half of the Flower City with one blow. The samurai stood in the ear of a red-finned eastern puffer fishman and said, "What?" Hisong was a little shocked by this sentence. As the capital of Wano, the Flower City has a very vast terrain. You mean a sword? Upon hearing this, a little old man about 1 meter tall with blue tattoos on his shoulders stood up. He looked at Tyr. The fear on his expression seemed to understand the seriousness of the matter. Don't discuss it, I just want to ask. Advertisement. Seeing the warriors making noise in the middle of the mine, Tyr asked them directly. Are you willing to die or live? What do you mean? Do you think you can kill us alone? Before a warrior with an angry face could speak, the figure of Tyr flashed in front of him in an instant, holding the head in his hands and standing in the crowd of warriors. Get back. What's going on? Hello. When the warriors reacted, they quickly fled around Tyr. Oh, I knew. Gion Momoshage heard the movement behind her and covered her face. She knew that Tyr would solve the problem by killing. However, she didn't want to stop Taylor from solving the problem. These warriors have been resisting for a long time, causing casualties to the marine soldiers. You damn beast. Boss Leopard Guro, give the order, let us kill him. You think I defeated Kaido and Big Mom, but I still don't have the ability to defeat you idiots in an instant? Tyr found these warriors very ridiculous, and it would not be an exaggeration to even call them a group of ignorant people. That's right, after all, the country has been closed for 800 years, and there are very few people who can leave the country of Wano. Everyone, look at the current situation rationally and don't. Leoguro considered the terrifying extent of Tyr's strength and was about to speak to let the warriors put down their weapons to resist. A warrior drew his sword and rushed towards Tyr, his face filled with ferocious anger. Try it if you dare, you be ************* D who destroyed our country of Wan. Wait. Boss Leopard Guro, don't be afraid, he is just one person. Not only him, but almost all the samurai present had the same expression. After learning about what happened to the flower capital, they united together heart to heart. First want Marine to give them an explanation, but now, they have hurt the marine soldiers, and it is impossible to have any bargaining chips. Okay, in this way I will satisfy your request. Tyr pinched the black knife floating around his body. Aim at the warrior who is rushing towards you and slash out with your sword. The moment the blades collided, the warrior was greatly shocked. His eyes narrowed suddenly as he stared at the weapon that was easily cut off by the weapon in Tyr's hand. Hiss, the blade passed across the skull, and Tyr cut him in half with a diagonal slash. We are born as Lord Oden's warriors, and die as Lord Oden's loyal souls. Don't think that you can defeat us just like this. Seeing that their companions were killed, the samurai began to swarm towards Tyr, wanting to kill him to pay homage to the dead soul of Wano. Advertisement: it's just a lost dog. Telephone stood there with his sword in hand, and every warrior who rushed in front of him was cut into two pieces by his sword. Blood, limbs, heads, corpses, the roars of the warriors disappeared with the wind over time. The originally noisy mine became extremely quiet under Tyr's blade. Only the two stunned Bao Wuling and Hisong were left, looking at Tyr's expressionless and extremely relaxed look. The lives of 1,000 warriors passed away so quickly before their eyes that it was almost impossible for them to accept it. You don't feel anything? Baoguro said hesitantly. Huh? Tyr looked at him while standing among the warrior corpses, and said with a puzzled look on his face. How do you think I should feel? No matter how he killed, Tyr's heart was as calm as Shisui, without any disturbance at all. Hearing this, Baoguro knelt on the ground in despair, regretting not stopping them in time. Just now, he actually wanted to see if 1,000 people could kill Tyr. If they could, then they would be able to avenge Momonosuke. However, the result was despair. Drink. Hisong came to his senses and immediately drew his sword with anger on his face, and rushed in front of Tyr with a move of Ihei slash. The moment the blade came down, Tyr twisted his body sideways to avoid Hisong's slash. Dodged. Hisong was startled, his frightened eyes quickly squinted at Tyr beside him and slashed him with a knife. Well. Under a ray of sword light, his head fell to the ground. I'm so hungry. After Tyr killed Hisong, he looked at his stomach and complained. It's like he doesn't care about this farce at all. All the domineering energy has been destroyed, Baoguro said as he knelt on the ground. In just a few minutes, he was the only one left among the 1,000 warriors. How old are you, old man? Tail walked up to Baogorang with a knife and asked him in a soft tone. Baoguro looked up at his boyish face, which was colder than the silver moon in the sky, but there was no trace of coldness. At your age, you should understand that once you say something, you can't take it back. After saying that, Tail swung his sword energy and drowned Leopard Guro, causing his vision to go black and he died on the spot. It seems you really want to destroy this country. Gion walked towards the mine without looking back. He knew what was happening behind him without looking. I just don't want to leave any hidden dangers. Let's go, little tailor. No matter what you do, I won't stop you. Chapter 192 Wano Country. Endpoint. Anyone at the top level of Marine almost understands the threat Wano Country poses to the government. Such national destruction is also reasonable. It didn't take long for Wano to win all battles on all fronts. Tyr sent an order to the entire army to rest in place for 2 days and then set off to leave the country of Wano. After leaving the Tuden mine, Tyr looked at the erupting volcano in the distance. Gion, go help Fujitora and others reorganize the soldiers, and also call some people to bring all the operational warships to Udon port. I know. Where are you going? The city of flowers. Tyr flew over the flower capital with his sword and watched with his own eyes wiping out the town. Lava burned buildings all over the place, and citizens began to migrate on a large scale to Guri, which is located in the eastern part of the flower city. That is Bola town. Tyr looked down at the migration of the people below, silently raised his right hand and released 1,000 sword blades to fly downward. I'm going to kill you sooner or later anyway, so you might as well be used by me. It penetrates all the people in Wano and leaves no hidden danger behind. In a nearly hour-long massacre, Tyr killed approximately 600,000 remaining citizens of Wano. He also turned this place into the second pirate kingdom he destroyed. This feels like. Lifespan is skyrocketing. Feeling the heat that was constantly being generated in his body, Tyr understood that the brand that Shinigami had placed before was still effective. Calculating this, his lifespan is almost 1 million years. As long as there are still living beings in the world, true immortality will be achieved in a sense. You cold-blooded B*********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** flower capital, swore at Tyr. While scolding Tyr, he summoned countless vines to absorb the nutrients from the dead corpses of the entire Wano country. Let a huge tree grow rapidly in the center of the flower city. Pan Mu, let this island become a primeval forest with flowers in full bloom, and all the creatures on the island will start over. Tyr destroyed this country, but he did not intend to let the island sink into the sea. Because this is an important resource development area and the minerals are the richest in the world. I just want to see how you will explain to the government when you go back, killing so many people. They should be happy that I have eliminated the threats and hidden dangers for them. Explain? How could Tyr give an explanation to the world government? The person who issued the order for the sneak attack before will definitely suffer his revenge. A few days later, of the 250 warships that went out to sea to attack the four emperors, only more than 190 warships finally returned to their bases. Advertisement: dead and injured bodies piled up like mountains, whether they were Marines or pirates. This war represents the end of the pirate era and the advent of the Marine era. It also belongs to the era of Tell. The moment Morgans assisted Marine and published the news of the four emperors' complete defeat to the world, Tyr became the object of fear to everyone in the world. His name as the sword god is unknown to almost everyone, and it will surely become a legend that praises countless eras. New World. The high-rise conference room of the new Marine headquarters. A videophone bug was placed in the center, reflecting the image of the dynamite rock bursting into flames and destroying Foz Island. Kizaru looked at the picture on the screen with disdain. When Tyr was conquering Wano, he and Aokiji, as a terrifying force that deterred other pirates on the sea, were the first to arrive at Foz Island where Zephyr stole the dynamite rock. Really, I didn't expect that he would end the battle in that way, even putting himself in a desperate situation and detonating the medicine rock. That man will never die unless he achieves his goal. He is Black Arm Zephyr. When faced with no one refuted it. Almost everyone present was a student of Zephyr, except Tyr. Foz Island has been destroyed. Akainu crushed the cigar he had finished smoking and said to everyone seriously. I don't know which of the remaining 2 islands he will choose to destroy, Sikon Island and Pilioto. We must not let him succeed. Not long after returning from Wano country, Tyr, who was floating above the conference room with a lazy expression, suddenly said. Can't we negotiate? Why should the pirate who once cut off his arm become a Shichibukai? This sole questioning left everyone present speechless. After Shichibukai retired in the Warring States period, he was directly taken over by the world government, and troublesome matters were solved by Marine. It is still up to the government to decide who to appoint as Shichibukai. Akainu was also stunned by Tyr's question. That silly big guy, under the control of Miss Ba Jin, claims to be Whitebeard's biological son. I don't know if that's true, Kuzan said. Negotiations also require the consent of the 5 elders. Besides, the situation may be irreversible now. Yes, Zephyr has destroyed a rock containing explosives comparable to the ancient weapon, and has become a wanted criminal by the government. Let me go through negotiations. Taylor floated to his general seat and said. Are you going to marry Ahio? No, tell. Everyone was shocked and frightened, worried that Taylor would make a big fuss in his current state. Why? Tyr looked at Akainu who objected. What are you worried about? Don't ask. You just came back from defeating the 4 emperors. You'd better rest for a while. Advertisement. Leave this matter to us, Tyr. Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru persuaded Tail directly, not wanting him to make any statement on this matter. Seeing the 3 of them looking like this, Tyr smiled slightly and said, just think about it, I can solve it instantly if I go. That's why I won't let you go. Tyr was speechless and continued. It's up to you. I feel a little tired too. If Zephyr destroys the remaining 2 endpoints, the whole world will fall into disaster. Although Tyr compromised on his words, he would never let this happen in his heart. Teal, you'd better rest at the headquarters for some time. I'll give you a long vacation. In the battle with the country of Wano, all the 4 emperors were annihilated by Tyr. This battle was enough to shock history, and Tyr's name could go down in history. Sakaski Fleet Admiral, it's time to clean up some of the Shichibukai. Don't raise a bunch of dogs that only bite their owners for wages, okay? Today, Teal's speech is more intimidating than anyone else, and this suggestion was directly adopted by Akainu. Then, until the end of the meeting, Teal didn't say another word. Leaving the conference hall, Teal jumped onto the 2-meter-high corridor railing and looked at the blue sea under the bright sun. Akainu put his hands in his pockets, walked behind him and looked at Tyr squatting on it and said, Teal, you have worked so hard to eliminate the 4 emperors. I always feel like you are a different person after you come back. Can you also praise others? Ha ha ha. I will arrange your achievements. Regarding the reward for clearing Roronoa and that revolutionary army woman, I promise you. It was so rare that Tyr had never seen Akainu praise others after the war. You can even find the smile on his lips. I don't care, but I won't stand by and watch ZFA's affairs. You can't be afraid of the authority of those 5 old men. You are dedicated to helping them. I will wait for the day when you make a decision. Brubru, the phone in his arms to contact Kongdao rang, and he answered it directly. What's wrong? Tyr, Sissa is awake. This news made Tyr overjoyed, and he immediately wanted to see Sisha, who had been in a coma for a week. Is the holiday true? Tell learned that it was true that Shisha woke up and disappeared, and immediately looked back at Akainu and asked. Of course, Taylor. Akainu looked at Tell's confident expression with deep eyes, and seemed to have a strong fighting power against the government in the future. That's right. When Tyr was about to fly to the sea and leave with his sword, he suddenly turned back and looked at Sakaski again. What's wrong? I forgot to tell you, don't treat me as an irrational lunatic, Shishwai. A huge conflict is unfolding between Marine and the government, which is caused by Akainu's dissatisfaction with the government's actions. Chapter 193 The Loss of My Love, The Death of Chisha. Seeing Tyr flying away, Akainu shouted to Sengoku who was hiding behind a beam. Half-invisible man, look, everything is getting better, and we don't need to compromise with the pirates. The Warring States period ate rice cake slices, handed the report about Tyr to the lamb in front of him to eat, and said in a deep voice. Things are so cruel. The government has received a large number of envelopes urging Tyr to abdicate, written by civilians around the world. He did what he wanted to do. Even if General Marine abdicates in 1 year, it will be acceptable. After all, he is only 20 years old. If Tyr wants to resign as general, Akainu will definitely allow it. They are fully able to cope with the current situation on the sea. The defeat of the 4 emperors has brought the arrogance of all pirates to a low point. But something bad is brewing on the government side. Speaking of which, how many times has Shalulia Palace sent messages to the headquarters, asking Tyr to meet her? On the blue sea of New World, dozens of scimitar warships draped in black seagull flags are heading towards their next target. This is a new neo-marine formed by Zephyr. The seagull symbol that symbolizes marine is pierced by a sword on the flag. Representative, Zephyr and Marines break, in a cabin where no sunlight can shine in. Zephyr put his legs on the table in front of him and held a newspaper in his hands that shocked the world. His face was solemn, and the corners of his mouth made his old skin wrinkle. It seems that the boy really did it. The 4 emperors will disappear from the sea from now on. Zepha's whole body was covered with medical bandages. The sword god who shook the world defeated all the New World 4 emperors, and the era of peace quietly arrived. Such news made Zephyr very happy, but his act of destroying Foz Island has made him an enemy of Marine. The world government will never let him go. Teacher Z, if the content in the newspaper is not mythologized, our actions will be hindered. Myths are absolutely impossible. That guy's actions in the sea over the years are enough to prove it, Zephyr said with certainty. What about our actions? Ain, who wore an orange military uniform, a pair of pure black leg socks, and short wavy hair, stood in front of Zepha's desk with his arms folded. Advertisement: they had just rescued Zephyr from the sea, who was involved in the explosive rock that destroyed Foz Island. Haha. Zephyr smiled disdainfully and stood up from the sofa. Of course, continue. Marine's incompetence does not mean that I, Zephyr, are incompetent. I have to do everything over again. What shocked Zephyr the most was the destruction of Wano by Tyr. This incident also caused a lot of controversy on the sea. Some people think that although Tyr is so powerful that he surpasses generals, he is too young and too impatient and energetic. Some people also believe that Tyr simply likes killing lives, and they even specifically appealed to the world government to cancel Tyr's position as general. All in all, most people think that Tyr's ability to do things is too cruel and bloody, and there is no need for someone like him to exist in the justice lineup. Zephyr did not interrupt this world-destroying operation because of Tyr. But our combat power. Before Ain could say anything in his mind, he was interrupted by Zephyr. Action has nothing to do with combat power. As long as we are quick enough, we can destroy Sikon Island and Pilioto Island in time. Taking into account the combat power, a general can stop Zepha's action. But all the warships under his command have been specially modified and can sail much faster than ordinary warships. This world has become so distorted that it cannot be saved. Only by starting everything over again can we reshape a brand new world. I, Zephyr, will end it all with my own hands. Zephyr has already planned to take all the Neo-Marines to go his own way and complete the last thing he wants to do in his later years. He wants to destroy the whole world and plunge the entire sea into a horrific disaster. It is located 10,000 meters above New Marineland. A huge flying ark landed on the top of Visalia Sky Island. That's Amato. Nami's eyes dimmed as she saw 2 very familiar words. That's too late. He seemed very satisfied with his attack. Uta, Robin, and Nami suddenly showed shocked expressions. Tyr, who lost his love again, had bloodshot eyes and his face was extremely pale and weak. It was Enel they met on the empty island who drove the ship back from the moon to the sea. There was an urge to shout in my heart, but it was silent because no words could express the despair and powerlessness in my heart. Immediately, he thought he had punched himself in the face. Boom. Advertisement. Chisha. Wake up. Wake up. Tyr gently slapped her face, unable to believe what he was seeing. Holding Chisha's charred corpse, a terrifying murderous aura enveloped everything around her. After the Battle of Wano, Tyr, who was thinking about how to live a peaceful life with them and giving birth to a lot of cubs, suffered an unprecedented blow at this moment. The pain brought him from fantasy back to reality. Are you lying? Are you kidding me? What happened? Standing on the huge ark motto and looking down below, he looked like he was a god. Looking at the thunder falling from above, Tyr immediately dodged and found a familiar figure among them. Even the warm sunshine has been reduced to almost freezing. Tyr, who was happily coming back to visit Chisha, noticed something was wrong while flying with his sword. Holding Chisha's body, he slowly twisted his neck to look at Enel on the ark's proverbs. The huge instant thunder swallowed up the house where Chisha was located and penetrated the Sky Island and the land directly under the sea. The extremely sad and silent roar and cry kept slapping Chisha's face in an attempt to wake her up, but she could only feel the gradually disappearing body temperature. A huge bolt of lightning illuminated the sky above Visalia Sky Island from the clouds, and instantly struck Sissa, who had just woken up and was looking out the window in bed, with a contented look on her face. Anyone who disrespects God will be punished like this. A trace of ridicule flashed across Enel's lips. The man wears a white turban on his head, and under the turban is his aunt's head. The earlobes are long and have earrings. The upper body is bare, and a thunderdrum is mounted on the back. At this moment, Tyr felt as if his heart had been ruthlessly torn apart, and the pain was as deep as a knife cutting into his bones. Wait. There's something else in there. Tyr, who was originally very interested, had a complete collapse of his spiritual world at this moment. The moment he released the first-generation ghost and brought out the figure from the thunderous thunder, Tyr's eye color dropped to a terrifying gray color. Yahahaha, who on earth is so disrespectful after seeing the gods coming? Seeing Chisha falling from an altitude of 10,000 meters into the sea below after being instantly electrocuted by his ability after recovering her body. He flew to the top of the Vesalius garden at an extremely fast speed, and emerged in front of everyone from the huge circular pit struck by thunder. Holding a golden rod. The lower body is wearing bloomers, and the feet are bare with rings on the toes. The long dried tears streaked down Tyr's cheeks at this moment, dripping from his chin to the sea 10,000 meters below. Huh? Who are you? Enel, who returned from the moon, was the first to find the Thai soldiers and asked. It was cooling his heart bit by bit. Chapter 194 Sword God Tyr. How dare you look up at the gods with that look, ha ha ha, it seems that you must understand the consequences of disrespecting the gods. Enel turned from the proverb into lightning and teleported to the Visalia Sky Island in an instant. Really lightning fast. As if he had gained some incredible knowledge from the moon, he knew the secrets of this world and began to treat no one more seriously. You two are the partners of that smelly rubber. Enel found Nami and Robin nearby and remembered everything that happened on the island a year ago. His expression instantly became a little angry. It's over, I'm going to die. There are still several strange creatures on the proverbs. They look like animals, very thin and short, and they all wear the clothes of scientific personnel in white coats. Wake up. Tyr glared at Enel, then turned his attention to Chisha. Even though he knew she was dead, he didn't want to give up waking her up. Nami looked at Tel, who was crying in front of her, and felt very incredible. How could such a cold-blooded man shed tears? None of my business, yelled Uda, dressed in ranch clothes. It's useless to say anything. Who would have thought that there would be a sudden enemy attack? Robin looked at Tyr not far away with some worry. He was kneeling on the ground, still holding Chisha, with a desperate look on his face, and kept trying to wake up Chisha, who had been instantly killed by lightning. Her body had just recovered and regained consciousness, but she was suddenly punished by Enel, and she did not survive it. Tyr's calm appearance began to collapse, and his expression gradually became sad and he screamed. Yahaha, that woman seems to be very important to you. Enel continued to mock. Like a beast that was about to lose control, Tyr finally couldn't restrain the grief in his heart. Tyr glanced around, breathing very quickly as he looked around, opening his mouth to keep from expressing grief. He obviously gained strength that no one else in the world could shake, but he suffered this kind of thing just when he was about to get better. How could he accept it? Tyr. During this time, Hancock was summoned to the New World as Shichibukai to suppress the pirates, so she was not there at all. Otherwise, this kind of thing would never happen. No. Tyr looked around, somewhat unsure of what to do. Advertisement. His painful heart made Nami, Robin and others sympathize and even feel pitiful. Especially after understanding Tyr's previous experiences, they really couldn't help but sympathize with Tyr in this scene. Do not leave me. Enel looked at the grief-stricken Tyr and strolled towards him with a happy face. She is so sad. It seems that you care about her very much, but the dignity of the gods cannot be violated. This is the punishment she deserves. The air is so cold, what's going on? After Enel smiled, he looked at Tyr. As he got closer to Tyr, he found that his skin was as uncomfortable as frostbite from the extreme cold. He stopped and realized something was wrong. What's wrong with you? Are you an Esper? Enel asked the grieving Tyr. He has no sympathy for anyone at all, and claims to be a god who views all things from the highest ideological position. Why? Suddenly, Tyr looked up to the sky and roared loudly. Look at the huge dark cloud in the sky and complain to the sky that this kind of thing happens. Obviously everything is getting better. Everything is getting better. Yahaha, if you like her so much, I will send you to meet her. After Enel said to Tyr, he immediately extended his index finger and pointed at Tyr's temple. Discharge. G. The electric current penetrated Tyr's body, but it did not cause any harm to Tyr. Instead, a terrifying and unrivaled sword energy rushed out of Tyr's body instantly. Enel was caught off guard, and a huge bloody wound was cut directly into his chest. It's not even time to elementalize. Who the hell are you? After being injured by the sword energy, Enel touched his chest and stepped back, quickly distanced himself from Tel. He had a bitter look on his face with blood bleeding from the corner of his mouth. It was unbelievable that the terrifying sword energy at this moment had severely injured him. Tyr closed his eyes, gently placed Chisha's body on the lawn, then stood up and pinched the hilt of the whaling knife from the sword space, and pulled it out of the space. He looked at the shocked Enel with a very heavy heart. Boom! There was an explosive wave in the air. Tyr struck at Enel like an arrow piercing the clouds. But it's not an option if you continue like this. You have to cheer up. Faced with Tyr's expulsion, Nami did not leave and continued to persuade. The force was so strong that all the bones in Enel's chest were instantly shattered. At the critical moment when he turned into lightning and wanted to escape, his body was grasped by Tyr's domineering hands, and he was instantly lifted into a ball of thunder and smashed into the lawn. Boom. Because. Advertisement this time, I'm afraid nothing can make him get better. Then have you forgotten what you did to me before? Tyr, who was extremely grieved, knelt on the grass and cried bitterly. Before Enel could explain, his chest suddenly felt empty. It was as if he was being toyed with by fate, causing him to have countless extreme thoughts. When Enel listened to Tyr's cold words, it was as if a piece of ice had pierced his heart and killed him. Newspapers reported how glorious his title of sword god was, but in private he was deeply saddened by what he had lost. All the strength in the body is also being taken away. Who are you to me? You are just a toy of my captive. Tyr felt as if all experiences and growth had to be paid for. A burst of sword energy instantly swallowed up Enel's arc proverbs, and together with the lunar people he brought back from the moon, they were all reduced to ashes in the sword energy. After a long time, Tyr buried Sisha here under a willow tree covered with thick willow branches on Visalia Sky Island. Tell me why. Each punch caused part of his body to disappear. It wasn't until Enel was completely dead that Tel stood up, pinched the black knife's right arm and swung it upwards. Telephone? Eat something? You haven't eaten for 3 days? Enel, who was struck by the sword energy, already knew about Tyr's terrifying strength, and instantly became speechless. After all, we are people who have had that kind of relationship, so please take it seriously, okay? From what he just said, Tyr already knew that this guy killed Shisha. His chest was punched by Tyr. Although he asked why, he no longer wanted to give him any room to speak. 3 years later, something like this happened again that shattered his world. The last time, he was tortured into an inhuman mission tool. In the end, Nami couldn't stand it anymore and came to the willow tree and persuaded Ty. Nami wanted to go up to comfort her, but Robin grabbed her and stopped her in time. Impossible. This is the terrifying speed possessed by Qinghai people? Hearing this, Nami frowned and her pretty face became a little angry. Tyr, who had learned from the painful experience, kept leaning on Shisha's tombstone for an unknown amount of time without eating or drinking. My body has been manipulated like that by you. Am I not qualified to stand up and advise you to get back on your feet? Tell me, I have no grievances with you. Why did you want to kill my Shisha? Go away. Don't disturb me. She knows best that once a person's grief reaches the extreme, everyone and everything will be guilty. He leaned motionless in front of her tombstone. Where are the 10 children we promised? Chapter 195. No one can escape. Tyr still maintains his original understanding of the life and death of outsiders. But he didn't feel anything about his own, and he was in a state of mind where he didn't want to live or die. Measure your world map carefully. He stood up from the tomb, walked to Nami and looked at her. I have been made crazy by fate. As he spoke, Tyr suddenly thought of something. His expression became a little ugly and he continued. Wait a minute, is that guy's ability? Recalling that 2 years ago, on the eve of the Summit War, one of the supernovas that Tyr killed and impelled down was a Skylander pirate. His name is Yerki. He is a user with the causal devil fruit ability. Thinking of this, Tyr immediately ran towards the house where he lived. Have you figured it out? Nami felt strange about Tyr's behavior. There are many houses and buildings on Visalia Sky Island, and many plants under the sea were planted after being controlled by Tyr. Leaving the huge willow tree, Taylor rushed directly into a room at noon, and directly in front of Robin on the desk chair, he flipped through the drawers to find information on the Devil Fruit illustrated book. Tyle, have you recovered? Robin asked. Where is the Devil Fruit illustrated book? Robin activated the Blossom Fruit ability and found the Devil Fruit illustrated book from a nearby bookshelf and handed it to Tyr. Here it is. After receiving the Devil Fruit illustrated book, Tyr immediately started searching. Quickly turning the page, Tyr finally stared at the introduction of the Karma Devil Fruit's ability with a pale expression. Karma Devil Fruit. Once the holder is killed, the person who killed the person with the Karma ability will suffer a Karma retaliation in the future. Reincarnation. After reading the introduction, Teal's mind was filled with memories of the scene where the town was burned by fire when he was 17 years old, and a laser beam destroyed the marine warship commanded by Tiffany. Now, after finally breaking through the emotional barrier and finding new love again, I feel sad. Isn't this the pain of reincarnation? The cycle of cause and effect? What kind of cause and effect did that damn weird monk have on me? Seeing Tyr suddenly lost his temper again, Robin seemed to hear something from his words. Teal, you mean that you killed the holder of this ability before? Well, I almost lost my mind when I was attacked hard and killed everyone instantly. After realizing that everything was not an arrangement of fate, Tyr realized that it was the pirates who had done it again, and his hatred of the Sky Islanders reached its peak in an instant. Although I sympathize with you, this encounter should have lifted his curse on you. You have also lost an important person because of this. I have. Tyr took out a stack of Baileys from the drawer, covered his forehead and left the room. I am not subject to any restrictions. Advertisement, can I ask a question? Robin sat on the chair without looking back at the door. What do you think we are? Robin asked tentatively. If she was not satisfied with the question, she would flee from this place. I used my achievements in the War of Wano to wipe out all your pirate bounties. This is not free. Wait, are mine erased too? Robin was a little surprised. Yes, the world government is afraid of me. Crunch. The door of the room was closed by Tyr, leaving Robin sitting alone inside with a shocked face and thinking. Her bounty has existed for more than 20 years. Now that 3 historical texts have been destroyed by Tyr, Robin's threat has been greatly reduced. After reacting, Robin looked at the closed door. What do you mean it's not free? Hey. Go to town number 1 where the meteorologist works, and walk on the street and enter a tavern. There are 2 towns on this empty island, and everyone is completely controlled by Tyr's ability, running what is needed on the empty island like puppets. With a population of no more than 20,000, it is isolated from the rest of the world. Lord Sword God, what do you need to eat? Strong drinks and delicious food. Taylor placed a stack of Bailey's bills on the front desk and sat down. The boss accepted the huge sum of money without hesitation. Because Visalia Sky Island needs to regularly send people on punk-style airships to the land islands under the sea to purchase resources. This is used to produce the daily necessities needed by Visalia Sky Island. The Sword God Island under the New World has now become Visalia's main source of purchase, and they all purchase it themselves. Not everything is free. Drink the strong wine and wait for a while, Lord Sword God. The food will be here soon. I don't want to be restricted by anything anymore in my life. No one can let me be restricted. Countless extreme thoughts poured into Tyr's mind. No matter the laws of the world government or the restrictions of Marine General's status, he would no longer be subject to any restrictions. After the meal, Tyr rested in the tavern for the whole day, and it was not until the bright moon rose that he slowly woke up. Are you awake, sir? Tyr looked up and watched the tavern owner wiping the goblet, getting up and walking out of the tavern. Looking up at the sky full of stars and the bright moon, I fell into a mood of self-reflection. I want to release the original humanity that people should have and do whatever they want. Advertisement. Putting down these words, Tyr walked under the moonlight with his hands in his pockets and walked toward Robin, Nami, and Uda's new residence with a determined look on his face. He felt that since the world was unfair to him, he should let his primitive instinct become more intense. Visalia is divided into 6 regions. Tyr came to the top of the Sky Island, outside a house that looked like a sky. Oh, Nami lay on the bed and sighed. I really want to go back to Kokoja village to visit. I think it's quite nice here. It's suitable for me to read quietly, and my safety is guaranteed. I really envy you. Don't you feel tired after reading a book for a whole day, Robin? Knowledge is never enough, and I am a scholar. Uda, who was singing Chingsang outside the house, suddenly saw Tyr coming in the distance and immediately ran into the house and hid in his room. What's wrong, Uda? Nami asked. That guy is back. By the way, he didn't hurt you during the time you were on the island. What are you afraid of? He's a monster. Taylor pushed open the house and locked the door as if he had entered his own home. Yes, he responded to Uda in the room. I am the monster. Calling the 3 of them to the hall, Tyr sat on the sofa and looked at them. I promised you things in advance, so that everyone in the world can read books, draw a map of the world in my lifetime, and one more. Tyr looked at the cowering Uda. I want to start a new era and let everyone live happily. Why did you call us together so late, Tyr? Enjoy the sublimation of the body, Tyr said to the 3 of them. Robin seemed to have read through Tyr's thoughts and accepted it without saying a word. Subliminate your head. Before Nami could react, he was the first one to be knocked down by Tyr. I still have something to do. The sheep outside are not fed. When Uda saw this, his face instantly turned red and he wanted to run away, but Tyr pinched him directly to his side. Let me go. What are you doing, Tyr? Nami struggled. Sigh. Isn't it too primitive to vent in this way? Seeing such a scene, Robin said calmly that she was not immune to sublimation in the end. The night was almost sleepless. Chapter 196. Sycan Island, holding explosive rock in hand. After thinking about it, Teal felt that there might really be no justice or evil in this world. Justice under the current world government is just a lie that squeezes the world. Even if Sakaski leads Marine, this phenomenon has not improved. The 4-year World Conference is coming soon, and this time the world government has invited almost all the participating countries. Among the meetings was the abominable act of killing creatures in Tyr, which was dissatisfied by the common people of the world. Day and night rotate. New World the second half. Morning. On Second Island, one of the 3 endpoint islands, Tyr was the first to arrive at this island with a huge city. Floating in the air, he landed on the dock with his feet and looked at the huge bustling towns built around the coast. There is no country or rule here, and it is a neutral trading town in the world. Surrounded by volcanoes, it is a huge island that only has summer. After crossing the bridge, Tyr walked into the town of Sakan Island and saw a large number of residents carrying the latest newspapers everywhere to spread the news. Extra. Neo's new Marine is fighting Marine in the wasteland behind the island. He has already breached the bay. Will our hometown be destroyed too? How could Marine do such a thing? It's not Marine, it's a new Marine called Neo. Walking on the street, Tyr listened to the information with a blank expression and expressed disapproval. An earth-shattering change had occurred in his heart. There was only one blade left behind in his hand, and first-generation Kitetsu was also integrated into the Screaming Blade. There is no need to think about whether Zoro collects 3 ghosts, and a powerful battle will break out. Now, he only cares about himself. That guy looks familiar, as if I've seen him somewhere. Even if Tell was discovered by civilians, he was not recognized immediately. He blended perfectly into the crowd. Just go and ask and you will know, haha, hello. The moment the civilian's hand slapped Tyr on the shoulder, his body was instantly penetrated by thousands of sword energy and turned into a stream of blood and water splashing around. Don't touch me. Tyr, who was extremely vigilant, felt like an ice cellar in his heart, without any mercy at all. Kill. Kill someone. Advertisement. Seeing the man who instantly turned into a splatter of blood and flesh, the civilians on the street fled from Tyr. A few Marine soldiers maintaining security heard the noise and came immediately with guns. Who killed someone? The civilians pointed to Tell. I don't know what moves he used, but he was so cruel. The person evaporated in just an instant. The soldier came to Tyr and looked at Tyr's face for a moment and was suddenly shocked. General Tyr, are you also here to stop Zephyr? General, you said he is the murderous general, the sword god Tyr? After learning that it was Tyr, the soldiers quickly evacuated the civilians away from Tyr, and then asked Tyr. Mr. General, why do you want to kill civilians for no reason? He touched me. Listening to Tyr's reasons, the soldier was shocked. I just touched you. Is it necessary to kill someone? But, shut up and go do your official duties. I'm just passing through here on vacation. Yes. Let's go quickly. The soldier took the others and fled from Tyr. Just talking to Tyr made me feel an invisible pressure. Just like the rumors, he is an incredible monster. Tyr raised his head and looked at the volcano on the distant mountain peak. Is that the end point? Tyr activated his haki and stared at the volcano, which was not filled with explosive rocks ready to destroy the island. Once the end point is destroyed, the entire world will fall into a sea of fire, and magma will erupt from the ground, oceans, and islands. Hundreds of millions or billions of living beings will be wiped out. It was his duty as a general to prevent this kind of thing, but now Tyr looked indifferent. The world is destroyed? That won't affect the people on his empty island, but it will destroy Sword God Island. Tyr also wants to see what will happen in the end. This is just the second island. He wants to wait until the third island is destroyed before taking action to stop it. Advertisement. According to ZFA's marching speed, the Marine headquarters troop mobilization was completely unable to keep up with his pace. Go and have a look. Tyr took off into the air and flew towards the back of Second Island. There are approximately thousands of Marine soldiers here desperately resisting Zephaden. The huge seafloor stone mechanical arm has a storm blade that shreds soldiers every time it swings. In order to achieve his goal, Zephyr didn't care about his past relationship with Marine. He cares most about his subordinates and recruits, and when Miss Ba Jin brought Edward Wable to join Shichibukai, he completely abandoned his kindness to the recruits. Only recruit died under his seafloor stone mechanical arm. Get out of my way, Marine. The gap in combat power doomed the defense of the local Marines on Saiken Island to fail. Soon, the Marines who resisted ZFA's attack on the island were defeated one after another. Teacher Z, look at that guy in the sky. Ain, who was holding a double blade, looked horrified. The moment he discovered Tyr, even ZFA's heart sank. The toughest guy has appeared, but he doesn't seem to be here to stop us. Under his sunglasses, Zephyr found that Tyr was not hostile. Sword God General, stop Neo Marine quickly, we are no match for them. The retreating soldiers asked Tell for help, but received no response from Tell. Well done in the Battle of Wano, Tyr. Zephyr smiled, and the cold sweat on his forehead dripped to the ground. What are you doing here? If you continue like this, you will die, Zephyr. Tyr flew to a low altitude and said not far from Zephyr. Death? I have made up my mind to start the world over again. Zephyr put the mechanical arm in front of him and aimed at Tyr. Even you can't stop me. Death does not matter to the elderly Zephyr at all. He just wants to complete his final revenge, anger, and sorrow in the remaining time. Teacher Z. Ain put his palms on his chest. Zephyr, who was staring ahead with great worry, aimed at Tyr with his shattering prosthetic limb. Sakan Island, Marine is not coming, Tyr said to Zephyr. When you take this army to the last island, what will be waiting for you there will be a nightmare, Zephyr. Under the command of Akainu, they directly gave up and came to Second Island to set up defenses. Instead, all the troops that can stop Zephyr are mobilized to the last island at the end point. Even if there is hell ahead, I will step into it to achieve my goal, Tyr. Zepha's determination could not be shaken at all, even though he understood how big the gap in combat power was. Seeing that Tyr had not taken any action, he led a large number of soldiers carrying explosive rocks into the Second Island volcano. Tyr took a sudden breath and sucked one from Neo Marine's hand. He looked at the rock that contained special power. It would explode on the spot as long as it came into contact with the air. Chapter 197 Looking for Cloning Technology, Commander Teacher Z, he took away the dynamite rock. The soldier who was robbed of the dynamite rock by Tyr shouted, feeling a little worried. Haha, what are you going to do, Tyr? Zephyr looked at Tyr with some worry. Once the dynamite rock explodes, its power will be almost comparable to that of the ancient weapon. I have something to ask you, Zephyr. Tyr, who landed on the ground, came to Zephyr with an explosive rock in his hand. What's going on? Zephyr motioned to all the soldiers who were aiming their guns at Tel to put down their weapons. In addition to Caesar, the Vinsmoke family, and Quinn of the Beast Pirates who have been killed, where are the other members of MADS? On the Visalia Sky Island, Teal talked about a shocking secret about world government. The secret to resurrecting the dead. From the reformed pacifist Zephyr brought to snatch the Gulf War, Teal was sure of one thing. That is, Zephyr must be related to Vegapunk who escaped from the world government. How did you become a general? Don't you even know this important information? Zephyr mocked. He also understood that after becoming a general, Tel rarely participated in various meetings in the Holy Land of Mary Joa, so he had very little contact with government secret intelligence. The government will not inform Teal of this information now, and needs to wait until the World Conference is over before making a decision. Tell me. Seeing Tyr crushing the surface of the explosive rock storage tank with his fingers, Zepha's calm expression that pretended to be calm could no longer remain calm. Having already suffered the power of a dynamite rock explosion, Zepha's current body cannot withstand the second time. What are you going to do? I always feel like you are the same as before. Stop talking nonsense and tell me directly. In exchange, I won't stop you from blowing up the second endpoint this time. During these days on Sky Island, Tyr learned about the members of the MADS illegal scientific organization from Robin. Among them, the successful deeds of the clones resurrecting the original Rock's pirates gave Tyr a slim hope of resurrecting his beloved. As long as you have human blood or DNA, whether it is personality or appearance, you can successfully clone a real person who is exactly the same as before you were alive. Vegapunk, Miss Bajan, Quinn, Vinsmoke Judge, and Caesar, a genius scientist who was expelled by the government and lived in seclusion in Punk Hassad. That's all the information I know. Tyr looked at the 5 modified pacifists behind Zephyr. Most of these advanced mechanical weapons were modified by Vegapunk. Advertisement during the First World War, many pacifists were discarded by marine scientists after being abandoned. One can imagine where Zepha's weapons came from. Miss Bajan, the scientist of the Rock's pirates. Tyr stared at Zepha's eyes and began to analyze in his mind. Zephyr will never go to that old man Bajin, because they are enemies. The only thing left was the MADS illegal technology team, and Bajin personally developed his own clone. That is Stasi, one of the emperors of the underground world today, and the place where the underground emperors hide is under Dressrosa. After analyzing the intelligence, Tel placed the explosive rock in the rock and turned around and left Zephyr. Sea-train to Seacon Island port. Hateful. Zephyr had an asthma attack due to excessive stress and immediately took out medicine and sprayed it into his nose. The entire army is accelerating the process of deploying explosive rocks. The plan must be accelerated. The Emperor returned to the town from Seacon Island, and a large number of retreating marine soldiers gathered here. Mr. General, have you finished cleaning up the Neo Marine? On the street, a Major General ran up to Tel and saluted. He followed Tyr closely, eager to know the result. No, what? The Major General was shocked when he heard Tyr's answer. Do you know what they are going to do? Do you know where this place is? He stopped Tyr, stretched out his hand and grasped Tyr's collar with anger. Let go of my collar. Why don't you stop them, Mr. General? They want to destroy New World. Once New World is destroyed, hundreds of millions of civilians around the world will be buried in a sea of fire. He put aside his fear of Tyr and tried to let Tyr know the seriousness of the matter from the overall perspective of the world. His eyes were filled with disappointment for Tyr, as if he was treating Tyr as a child who didn't know anything. I can do whatever I want, who cares? Facing Tyr's very cold reply, the Major General's face instantly turned from pale to angry. What kind of righteous Marine General are you? You're just a young brat who relies purely on his own whim. While he was yelling loudly, he kept tugging on Tyr's collar. Boom! The sword energy immediately rushed out of Tyr's body, splitting the ground, and instantly cut him in half and fell to the ground. Advertisement, Admiral. What are you doing? We're still around. The injured Marine soldiers surrounding him had their faces turned pale with fear. Facing the screams of the soldiers, he continued walking towards the seaside with a cold face. I am going to destroy the 4 emperors out of motivation. You guys only know how to find people to blame, and never think about the huge contribution I will make to future peace. Tyr almost went berserk at these words and even wanted to kill all the soldiers here. The achievement of wiping out the 4 emperors is not even worth the civilians of a country who assisted pirates 800 years ago. When he learned that the world government still wanted him, Taylor no longer had any loyalty to the government. The achievements of so many years are being wiped out by those in power and covered with black spots. Is this what the so-called high merit overwhelms the master? It just so happened that Teal also wanted to do something at the World Conference in January. Passing through the town street, Tell saw countless islanders all going to the sea train to evacuate. Accompanied by a huge explosion, Tyr, who left Sakan Island on a sea train, sat on the top of the train and looked at the pillar of flames in front of him. The blasted crater and the erupted lava engulfed everything on Sakan Island. The firelight flickered in the eyes of everyone on the train. The news that the second endpoint was bombed spread around the world, and a military operation involving all lieutenant generals was launched at the marine base near Pilioto Island. On a burning town island somewhere in the New World. Did you hear that, Tyr? That guy used the name of Shichibukai to massacre islands in the New World without fulfilling Shichibukai-related obligations. Tell, who was talking to Akainu with a phone bug, listened to Akainu's angry words. I'm in front of them now. What did you say? As long as you say a word now to depose him, Shichibukai, I can kill them immediately. Tyr looked at an old man in front of him with a face full of makeup, and another with a fat upper body and a slender lower body. The man holding a naginata exactly like Whitebeard said. Weeble. Chapter 198, Obtaining Information about the Master of Cloning Technology. Looking at the humanoid monster cloned with Whitebeard's blood, Tyr became a little worried. If resurrecting them would cause their bodies to become deformed like this, Tyr would rather not let them suffer this. Using the name of Shichibukai to kill so many lives, how can he be allowed to stay in Shichibukai again? I'll leave it to you to deal with it, Tell. Akainu had already heard a little bit about Tell's killing of a major general a few days ago. But he didn't care at all. He knew very well what kind of dream Tyr had, and he wouldn't do anything to Tyr if he made a mistake. After all, no one is perfect. As everyone knows, Tyr's pain of losing his beloved made him hate the world to the point where he could kill anyone. Received. Like a task tool that received instructions, Tell hung up the phone and put it in his pocket. Holding the knife, he walked towards Weibel's giant-like body. Mom. Weibel suddenly felt the air was so cold. What's going on? Damn Akainu, you actually wiped out our name as Shichibukai in front of our face. The elderly Ba Jin looked at Tyr, who was pressing closer, and fell into fear. In other words, Tyr himself is now the embodiment of fear. Now that the 4 emperors have disappeared, the pirates are vying for the throne, and the New World Sea is in chaos. I have something to ask you. How did you clone this thing using Whitebeard's genes? Tyr suddenly raised his finger and pointed at Weibel behind Ba Jin. Of course, that is the greatness of science. Unfortunately, if Vegapunk hadn't been unwilling to help back then, Weibel would be the strongest being in the world now. Taylor became a little confused after hearing these words. What's the meaning? Haha, you seem to be very interested in this, kid. Ba Jin was keenly aware that something was wrong with Tyr, so he spread the rumors on the sea. Anyone would not talk nonsense with the pirates at all, but fight directly. With the black knife trailing behind him on the ground, Tyr's body suddenly exploded towards Weibel. Mom. I can't stop it. The moment Weibel saw Tyr take action, he felt the gap in strength between him and Tyr. His fighting instinct allowed him to quickly block the naginata in front of him, resisting the black-red blade. In an instant, Weibel's huge body was cut back dozens of meters. Weibel, it's impossible. He is the bloodline of that monster Whitebeard. Seeing Weibel being repelled by Tyr, Ba Jin's face was filled with shock. As a member of the MAD's illegal technology organization, I am very interested in how you made a copy of yourself, Miss Ba Jin. That damn guy is no longer me, and he is also my biggest failure. Advertisement, huh? What does that mean? Sensing the anger of the old Ba Jin towards his clone, Tyr became confused again. I really regret that I collaborated with Vegapunk to create her, and my young consciousness and body were all taken away by her. It seems that you were beautiful when you were young. Tyr drew his sword and slashed forward at the speed of light, rushing toward Weibel as fast as thunder and wind. Wait, don't kill my son. What is your purpose of leading him to slaughter wantonly on the sea? For his own purpose of resurrecting the 2 of them, Tyr suddenly stopped about 1 meter away from Weibel. The violent sword wind generated by his body still knocked Weibel into the town, burning with fierce flames. Of course it's for money, Ba Jin responded to Tell. Money? Tell recalled that since joining Marine, he had never worried about money. He used the money from the Warring States period and stole the money from the Marine. Now the general's salary is as high as tens of millions of belly. It's worth a little pirate in the East China Sea. Kid. Don't talk to me now with a righteous lineup. The violent murderous aura in you is not inferior to the bloodthirsty pirates. It's just that you have a general title to back you up. The massacre of citizens in Wano was reported to the world by the government. Therefore, Tyr can now be regarded as the world's largest terrorist, and the grief of losing Sisha has left him with only a trace of sanity. I can give you a chance, but you have to promise me something. As he said that, Wabel, who was angry after being knocked away by Tell, jumped tens of meters into the sky with a knife from the town, and slashed at Tell from top to bottom. Bang! If there is no one, there is no need to waste unnecessary time with her. I don't have any funds or a laboratory to fulfill your wishes now, nor do I have the equipment or brains. I'm already old, I'm just raising money now to do an operation and make this damn body rejuvenate through scientific means. After learning what Ba Jin said, Tyr cut off Miss Ba Jin with one knife. Son, what did you do to them? No, you can't kill me, I still know many secrets in the world. Don't you want to know what deal the young me and Vegapunk are doing? Tyr was on a mission to destroy the country of Wano for the sake of a peaceful world in the future, and to prevent the emergence of people who helped pirates reach the top of the country again in the future. No matter how the world situation develops during this period, I will not be involved. Advertisement Wabel felt the shame and was completely irritated. He tied the veins in his arms and lifted them up with all his strength. Do not want to know. It seems that we have to go to the underground dark world. Tyr, who was standing in the air, suddenly aimed his head downward at the angry Wabel below. The name of Shichibukai just made them more unscrupulous, and they massacred in the new world. Tyr grabbed Wabel's hair and threw his huge body in front of the old man Ba Jin. Bang! Demonstrating strength is always the highest bargaining chip in negotiations, unless the person on the other side is not afraid of death. The handle of the huge naginata was stepped on the ground by Tyr, making it impossible for Wabel, who had the strength to sink Whitebeard's terrifying power, to move at all. The next moment, his body was like a rocket, exploding through the air and rushing towards Wabel's brain at close range. What Tyr is sure of now is that without the help of Vegapunk, it would be completely impossible to resurrect Tiffany and Sissa. The naginata was dodged by Tyr sideways, and he stepped on the weapon sword that was cut into the ground. Then I have no choice. Tyr raised the black knife towards her and lamented, I'm going to find you, the young man. Mom. We must kill him. One blow sank Wabel's huge body to the ground, causing him to faint instantly. Tyr's words shocked the old Miss Ba Jin. Who could make someone like him, who hates pirates to the core, say such words? Ba Jin gently stroked Wabel's head, with a heartbroken expression that was completely unworthy of sympathy. But Ba Jin was different. She took Wabel on a wanton killing spree on the sea to make money, as a tool of force to achieve her latest goal. Another piece of information is that resurrected people have all the original consciousness they had during their lifetime. I need you to help me resurrect 2 people, and in exchange I will disappear on the sea for a long time. I just fainted. I don't believe it. Wabel burst out with terrifying power, and the ground on the mountain was shaken to pieces by his momentum. But he still saw the motionless and expressionless Tyr pressing his weapon with his foot. Stop, my good son, you are no match for him, Lifted Taylor into the air and floated. It seems that you really feel sorry for your stupid son. Tyr came to her and looked at the old Ba Jin. Chapter 199 Special Guests at the Bullfighting Arena. New World Dressrosa. Night. Under the huge girder bridge in the east, Tyr leaned against the bridge wall. The place he was in led to a busy city full of neon lights, and humans and toys kept passing in front of him. He arrived in the city unrecognized. The bloodstains on his body were solidified, and he looked so dirty that he looked very miserable. You see, kid, you must learn a good skill to make a living, otherwise you will be like him when you grow up, living in the streets and no one cares about you. The citizens passing by Tyr regarded Tyr as an educational subject and was teaching their children. Hearing these words, Tyr slowly opened his sword eyes, stood up and walked into the busy city. Walking in front of a bulletin board, Taylor looked at the latest daily publication. It's about the news that Shichibukai Edward Wabel was obliterated by Marine General Sword God Tyr. They say pirates kill indiscriminately, but what about this young Marine General? Although he eliminated the 4 emperors, but he killed millions of people in Wano country, it was too cruel. Why did that country offend the world government? Are you recruiting new Shichibukai again? Recruiting? Is there any other pirate in this sea who can serve as Shichibukai? The 2 missing supernovae? Or is it the disappeared crocodile? On the sea today, all Tyr can think of is the pirates who escaped from him. Most of the famous guys were killed by him. Even Kaido and Big Mom were imprisoned and impelled down. Seeing reports about erasing evil in the name of justice, Teal bowed his head and left the scene sadly. It's time to bring back your scabbard. Tell stared at the black and red black knife in his hand, walked to the deserted neighborhood and sucked it into the air. I closed my eyes and waited for not sure how long. A rusty white scabbard flew into his hand. Tyr inserted the knife into it and found that the quality and length of the knife had been greatly improved, and it could no longer be put back into the original scabbard. Let's go to the blacksmith shop. Early the next morning. East of Dressrosa, from a remote blacksmith shop, a muscular man walked out. Just as he was about to stretch towards the sky, he suddenly looked outside the room to the right. Tyr was resting at his door with his head down, holding his black knife. Advertisement, you. Why do you look so familiar? The blacksmith shop owner thought for a moment, but couldn't remember who Tyr was. Most civilians in this world are busy with their lives every day, and even if they know the latest news about the sea, they will soon forget it. I'm here to ask you to help me increase the length of the scabbard. After hearing the boss's words, Tyr stood up, opened his eyes, restrained the breath of the knife, and then handed the knife to the boss. This is a black knife. The boss who took the knife from Tell was stunned, then he poked his eyes and looked at Tell's face carefully. You are the youngest Marine general in history. Can it be done? I absolutely can. Then I'll trouble you. But this will take some time. This knife of yours cannot be used with such low-grade materials. The owner of the blacksmith shop held Tyr's knife, his hands shaking violently. I am very curious as to why General Marine came to his small shop. How long? It will take at least 2 days. The boss held out 2 fingers to Teal and looked at Teal's indifferent expression with sweat on his face. Okay, I'll come find you in 2 days. After saying that, Tyr left the blacksmith shop, leaving the dull-looking boss looking at the black knife in his hand. This is a job that will go down in history. He immediately became very motivated and began to take out the heirloom materials to work on Tyr's new scabbard. He never expected that on an ordinary morning, such a big shot would come to surprise him. Dressrosa Palace. Doflamingo was looking annoyed when his business went wrong due to Ty's defeat of Kaido. He was lying on the sofa in Dressrosa Palace, in a state of anger that he dared not speak out. Young master, oh no, there's a monster boy in the bullfighting arena. Monster? What are you talking about? Doflamingo put down the red wine in his hand and turned to look at his subordinate with a surprised look on his face. From morning to afternoon, that guy has defeated all the gladiators. There is no need to report such small matters to me, just leave it to the cadres. Young master, the cadres have all gone to the arena, but now they are almost defeated by him. Come to the Doflamingo in the bullfighting arena in person and look down at the huge competition disc. In the arena, all the bullfighting piranhas fainted and floated in the water. Rauji. Veins popped up on Doflamingo's forehead and his blood vessels were massively congested. Even if he was extremely angry, he would not dare to do anything in front of Tyr. Advertisement, so flexible. Who is this man? Mr. Rauji's powerful physical skills can't even hit him once. Doflamingo looked shocked when he saw Tyr. Rauji's powerful secret fist, with the seal of G, accurately hit Tyr instantly. After knowing Tyr's identity, the audience was not afraid. They enjoyed watching several crushing battles between royal cadres. About half an hour later, what did you say? This news shocked brother Dufu Changming. Now everyone knows that wherever Tyr is, nothing good will happen. Why did he get here? Damn it. That man defeated all the cadres under our command who could fight. This is giving you, young master, a show of authority. Admiral. Marine who destroyed the New World 4 emperors. In the crowded bullfighting arena, people soon recognized Tyr's identity. That guy is. The moment his identity was discovered, Taylor immediately stopped to avoid the fist. It sounds like I've seen it somewhere before. After all, his cadres are not ordinary people, and those who can defeat them are often very powerful beings. No. The Marine Lieutenant General who targeted the war 2 years ago. There was a loud sound in the air, and Rauji's muscular body strengthened by Qigong flew towards the room where Doflamingo was. Let's put it this way, that guy isn't. The victory has been decided. The audience's shouts and cheers covered the entire venue. In order to witness it with his own eyes, he decided to go to the bullfighting arena himself. He looked at Tell's naked body, covered with scars, standing in the bullfighting arena, sweating, and avoiding injury. I don't know what purpose Taylor has here. A human-shaped dent was created, causing Rauji to lose consciousness on the spot. As soon as this statement came out, rows of spectators on the stage began to pass passes to each other. Doflamingo was shocked again. The commentator gave exciting explanations on the podium. Young master, this is the latest intelligence newspaper about Marine. Doflamingo's subordinate showed him the newspaper about Shichibukai's evildoing and killing. Wait a minute, I think I've seen that injury before. He didn't understand who it was that he had such strength. Chapter 200 The Underground Dark World That Escaped Disaster. Ambition, fame, power, wealth. Marine, who has the power to destroy all evil in the world, will come in person to eliminate the evil pirates. Tyr's avatar was used as a headline, as a representative of the power to intimidate all pirates. I would like to advise people not to take up the profession of pirates on the sea just because of a whim, so as not to suffer the same disaster as the 4 emperors. In the bullfighting arena, the angry Doflamingo took the newspaper to the canteen inside the arena. This is an honored guest, blah blah blah. Doflamingo was stunned as he just entered the cafeteria. There were exhausted chefs lying on the ground everywhere, except for Tyr, who was picking meat between his teeth with a toothpick. The world calls you Joker, Doflamingo. That's just a nickname given to me because I like to joke with people. He came to sit across from Teal's seat. He crossed his legs and wanted to know the purpose of Taylor's coming here. Well, what can I do for someone like you here? Take me to the dark underground world. I want to find Stussy. Looking for Stussy. That CP0 secret espionage officer. Although Doflamingo didn't know what Taylor was looking for her. Since there is someone in need of help, he has no right to refuse based on his status. Ha, I'm willing to help, Lord Sword God, come with me. After leaving the bullfighting arena, follow Doflamingo to Tel in Dressrosa Palace, and take an elevator down to the ground for who knows how long. It seemed that it led to the Earth's crust deeper than the sea. It took about 10 minutes for the elevator to stop. Arrive at your destination. The surrounding rocks and walls are covered with lights connected to electricity. Here, you can get everything you want to know, Lord Sword God. Doflamingo opened the door to the underground dark world. With a Joker-like smile, he stood in front of the door and invited Tyr in. It seems that it is not difficult to let go of your status. Doflamingo, I thought I would use a knife to force you to bring me here. Looking at the countless water pipes leading to the ground around him, Tel finally understood why the government in this place was secretly cooperating with them. Walking through a long dark corridor, Taylor could clearly hear the cheering voices getting closer and closer. It wasn't until he saw and heard the huge market without any order, rules, or laws, and the endless flow of people, that Tyr didn't know how big this organization was. And Doflamingo is the king of this organization, and he has built a huge business single-handedly. Because of you, the black market arms trade here has been interrupted. Isn't that good? There will be less war in the world, which will also reduce Marine's stress. Teal was taken to Pleasure Street, the entertainment realm dominated by Stussy. Where is she? Advertisement, let me make a phone call. Tyr walked to a random shop and sat down at the bar, and said 2 words to the boss. Rum. Money. After touching his body, Taylor found that he was penniless. You come here to drink when you have no money, so get out of here, you brat. This move was seen by the shop owner here, who was insulted by words. Are everyone here so aggressive? Seeing Tyr subconsciously touching the knife, Doflamingo immediately came to him and paid him. Doflamingo. The store owner was shocked and couldn't believe that a character like Doflamingo paid money to a child. If you don't want to die, just shut up and work hard. It seems that I am short-sighted. There's a world under the world. After a while, a woman wearing a white flowered hat and a pink dress obeyed Doflamingo's call and came to the bustling Happy Street in person. This is a rare visitor. She has short blonde curly hair, blue eyes, and is very cute and beautiful. Taylor, who was leaning against the bar with his legs crossed like Doflamingo, looked at her walking over with a bottle in his hand and said, I have to say that both the old you and the young you have a habit. Oh, how do you say this? A full face of makeup. It is a woman's nature to love beauty. Stussy came to Tyr and looked at him. Okay, what do you need from me, General Marine? I'm happy to help. General Marine? Hearing these 4 words, the shop owner behind him broke out in cold sweat. He couldn't believe what kind of existence he had just offended. Master Stussy, he is the boss. The boss asked in a low voice for a moment. Point the gun. Stussy swung his finger gun through the air and passed through the side of Tyr's face, directly hitting the head of the shop owner behind him. Ha, this is what I admire about her. Let me tell you directly, what does the righteous General Marine want from me? Stussy asked. Human cloning technology. Ha ha ha, what's wrong? What does a man of your level want to do with this technology? Advertisement, resurrection of 2 people as a condition. Tyr made the same suggestion as before with the old Stussy. If he did it, he would disappear on the sea for a long time and not care about the world. I didn't expect that guy to have been killed by you. Stussy was startled at first, then immediately smiled. If you can't provide it, the consequences will be the same. Tel said to her calmly, and then poured all the rum into his throat. This realm. Tyr glanced at the crowd around him. There is no need to exist anymore. Both Doflamingo and Stussy were trembling in their hearts. Hey, Stussy, promise him now. When Doflamingo heard that Tyr wanted the destroyer, he immediately hurriedly persuaded him. Don't you understand how crazy this guy is? Let me ask, who do you want to resurrect? Stussy pretended to be calm and asked with cold sweat falling from her forehead. Tiffany, Sissa. That marine woman who has been dead for several years, that's not right. After hearing the word, Shisha. Stussy looked into Tyr's cold and ruthless eyes. Everything suddenly became clear. When did Sissa die? There was no news at all in the newspapers. No wonder I felt the unusually cold murderous aura on Tyr's body. It turned out to be. I can help you, but you need the help of Vegapunk and the Vinsmoke family, otherwise you won't be able to achieve a perfect resurrection. Taylor, who thought that young Stussy would not help easily, had already thought of a second plan. That is to find the fruit of time and realize the reversal of time and return to the past. The people who collect the devil fruits of the sea are the country led by Mulan, and they are willingly serving Tyr in the sea. Although it's not known how much they collected. Well, I hope it can be realized after the World Conference. I'll go talk to Vegapunk. As for the Vinsmoke family, you need to go there in person. Remember, both are indispensable. Tyr stood up, drank a bottle of wine from the wine cabinet, and returned to the elevator. There is no worry that the Vinsmoke family will reject him because of his previous killing of Sanji. Under these eyes, Tyr can make all living creatures obey him. Looks like I'll have to make a trip to North Blue. Before getting there, Tyr had to go to Pilioto. Presumably, Zephyr has now learned about the death of the person who cut off his arm and killed many of his students. Will he change his mind?